that we're going to try our best to not interrupt anyone from the public speaking. And certainly if any governing body member has anything to say, you're welcome to say it. Let's not talk over each other. If you're in the public and you want to speak as to affordable housing or any matter for that matter, just do a virtual hand raise or wave your hand. We'll try to see you, and we'll try to get to you as soon as we do see you. And I see
Name and
Gloria O's got her dog raising his hand. Does your dog want to say something?
Hey, he wants to speak.
Okay, what do you want to say? He's very cute.
Mr. Mehta?
Yes.
Yeah, can you get me,
Name and address.
coffee?
Heyman Mehta, 75 Roberts Road. I had a question for
We need real coffee.
our attorney, Joseph Marianello. Last week,
Stop and Shop cinnamon hazelnut, I think it's called.
last week,
Who's ever
Not, you
have
can
their
find like.
recorder on, please mute it. Just Mr. Mehta is speaking. Thank you.
last week in the mayor council meeting, there was a motion made by Mr. Wu
Okay.
to do an investigation against some of the members of the council. And
I'll do with coffee tomorrow. Debbie and I made, well, it's gonna be instructions.
All right, we're going to try to get everyone muted here.
okay, so last week there was a motion made by Mr. Wu, in which he was raising that he wanted to investigate, or the council should investigate some of the members who basically were on the committee for affordable housing. And Mr. Marinello's associate, Mr. Jason Bonica, had said he had no opinion. And the 4 members who were supposed to be investigated actually voted no on that petition, on that motion. So Mr. Marinello, you had said that you were going to opine on this and he was waiting for opinion. Have you provided the opinion to the council, or can you share it with the public right now as to what your opinion is, that can Democratic members against whom the investigation is supposed to be done can vote on that motion and say no?
I don't have an answer for that yet. I was made aware of what happened at the meeting last week, and I will research it and give the response to the client.
But it's more than a week now, and it's a
Yeah.
very important investigation motion made.
It's not on the agenda tonight, so wasn't as important as the stuff for tonight's meeting.
Mr. Marinello, I tried to add it to the agenda for this meeting, and just to clarify what was said by your colleague, he said for the purposes of tonight, they can vote on it. And, you know, that answer was obviously not sufficient, and he should have given a firm legal opinion on that on the spot.
You may be right about that. However, you had all the time in the world prior to that meeting to let everyone know that that resolution was coming, and instead you sprung it on the council that night and then expected a perfect legal opinion, which is absolutely ridiculous. So instead, you got what you got. Now I will look at it, and if there's a difference of opinion, I will let you know.
Mr. Marinello, you can behave the way you want when you guys are in closed sessions. Right now, the whole public and everybody is here. So you don't need to say ridiculous or whatever. We're not looking here to get involved in your fights. All we are looking for is simple, polite answers. And I think you did not provide the answer for more than a week or 8 days. That's ridiculous. But I want to move on because there is no personal fight on that. So,
Mr. Mehta, can I just make one comment?
yes.
Marinello, and for the public, it's pretty well settled law, logic, and reason that if someone votes on an investigation regarding themselves, that's not a proper vote, because there is this thing called a conflict of interest, okay, which seems to have not entered the 4 corners of your law office to be able to analyze properly, but I'll do it for you. If you're voting on something regarding yourself, that's a conflict of interest. You should not vote. Okay, Mr. Mehta, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll answer partially. My common sense and whatever little knowledge I have, and I don't have that much knowledge as Mr. Marianello, tells me I have seen umpteen number of occasions, including in my companies or other places, if there was something against me or against certain people, they basically do not vote on that motion. That's a common, not a common law, but a common practice everywhere. So I don't know what he's looking for, but this should have been a simple answer. And you can do a Westlaw search. I did not know that I was going to get that answer. Otherwise, I would actually ask somebody to redo research, and I would have given him a Supreme Court or appellate court case right now. But having said that, we are here today, a year later, and we're talking about this affordable housing units or whatever. I presume that we have Mr. Serenian and we must have Mr. Trotner here. I just out of a common sense question, I wanted to ask, I have some census numbers, okay? And so I just wanted to point out some facts. According to the Bergen County Census, we have approximately 932,202 people according to the census of 2019. Okay, housing units are 360,000. Land is approximately 233 miles. Okay, so and total number of affordable housing units in Bergen County is 9,276. Okay. Now let's come to Englewood Cliffs. In Englewood Cliffs, according to that census, we have 5,354 population. Housing is 1,814. Miles, we have approximately 2 miles. We have, of course, 0 housing units. But if I followed the logic of Bergen County population 932,000 and affordable housing units is 9,276, it comes to approximately less than 1%. And if I took 233 miles of land and ours is 2, when I put the ratio together, it comes to 0.60. I don't see how in the world more than 50, 60, 70 units, according to these numbers, it can be anything, because this is for the entire county. So now I see we have an order which talks about 585 units for a town of 5,600 people and 1814 units. So are we talking about that a judge or our Democratic Council's members are saying, oh, we should settle this, and our lawyers, I don't know what they're doing, but you're saying that with one order that you need to build more than 40% of our population or 40% of the number as affordable housing, and that affordable housing actually leads to doubling or tripling your population. I mean, I can explain it. I don't want to spend too much of time. Nothing makes sense here. So when I hear this about settling and other things, there's something wrong being done by the majority council and by our attorneys. I will point out, I know you've said a couple of things. So in our trial, the short trial, right? We only had 2 experts. Why? One of the experts has been criticized by the judge in a decision that he was really bad. And no factual witnesses. How come we didn't show that, hey, what we did as a town, what we're trying to comply with affordable housing, okay? And as a resident today, I am perplexed, but I'm also annoyed that even today, we're not doing what is required to be done. And basically we are just continuing. So we are putting essentially a show, spending $3.5, $4 million just to lose further and further. That's it.
So Mr. Mehta, I know you were directing that at Mr. Marinello, who muted himself and left the.
No, my question on the other statistics was to our attorneys, not Mr. Marinello, Serenian, Trotner, other litigators, as to how does it make sense? Any of this makes sense. And for example, I looked up, Judge Farrington comes from Wyckoff, 16,000 people, okay? 16,000 population. 5,700 houses, and they only have 102 units. So our Judge Farrington comes from a town who is imposing 600 units on us, lives in a town with 102. I looked up Kevin Walsh, the so-called torchbearer who basically fought us. He lives in a town called Merchantsville, 3,800 people, zero affordable housing. And yet he is the torchbearer of the fair share housing, imposing this fair share on everybody. Joshua Bowers, now the attorney who is filing all the motion papers against us. He lives in a town called Woodbury Heights, 3,000 population, 0 units, 0. So all these guys who are saying how bad you are, how bad this town is, how bad we are as a general public, have 0 units. And I know we have 1 or 2 people here who wants to embrace all these people. Our issue has never been with the affordable housing. It's the land grab being done by these builders. If it was just 20, 30, 40, 60, 70 units, you are better off building that as a town. It wasn't done by the Democrats before, and now they're trying to pass this thing. I am an independent person, just moved here a year and a half ago, but all this is wrong. I just wanted, so whatever they try to sell you right now, it's all of their own making. And basically, I leave it up to the people. And I don't know what our lawyers are doing and what our Democratic Council is doing. That's it. I'm sorry that I got a little bit passionate. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And just so everybody knows, Kevin Walsh was the head of Fair Share Housing. As I mentioned earlier today, Governor Murphy promoted him to New Jersey State Comptroller. And so effectively, he's basically merged Fair Share Housing into the state government. But what's very interesting about Kevin Walsh is that his town that Mr. Mehta mentioned was actually fighting to redistrict their school, to actually change their send-receive to a better school district that they viewed was better for their children. So, you know, Kevin Walsh, yes, loud, big mouth, speaks a lot, sues everybody, but doesn't practice what he preaches.
And he lives in a town with 0 people, 0 units.
Yep. Exactly.
And then calls everybody that you guys are bad. He should be living in a town with the highest number of affordable housing units. Then tell everybody.
Mayor, are we going to do a back and forth? Because I'd like to.
Sure, I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm done.
No,
okay?
I would like to respond.
Go
to
ahead, Mr. Barr.
your comments, please, with all respect, Mehta.
Yes, sir. I mean, yes, ma'am.
We are not the only town that's going through this. The numbers, I'm in total agreement with you, not only in Englewood Cliffs, but all over the state, are extremely high, almost impossible, right? That doesn't change the fact that that number, that 584, that wasn't issued by Judge Farrington. She issued a lot of other orders that are very much out of the scope of what we all believe as council members is in her authority, and that's in the appeal. And you can read those appeal documents. The problem that we have here is that developers have rights also. And you're saying that we're looking to go ahead and settle, right? Because that's what the mayor has led you to believe, and that they have no knowledge of this. But in fact, it was agreed upon to see what would be available, if anything. And I have to tell you, back in July of last year, the public made it clear that they wanted to move forward and they wanted to appeal. They didn't care what the cost was. They wanted to move forward. It comes with a big cost, and that's the legal fees you're looking at. Let me finish, please. Second of all, right? So now that settlement from July of last year, which the whole council knew about. They keep saying they didn't know about the MOU. Everybody knew about it. It was talked about in closed session. That MOU, if we could have that today, this town would be very lucky, because what's going to happen at the end of the day, you may get a lot of the rulings dismissed in an appeal, but the one thing you're probably most likely not going to get dismissed is that we're still going to have to deal with the fact that there are developers out there who are going to be given the bill. And the risk is very, very large. I told you at that meeting a year ago, I said, if there are big risks with appealing, and you said to me, you personally, Mr. Mehta, said to me, what risk? There are no risks. And I said to you,
I have never said that. I'm sorry.
The risk would be that we would have to build and that Normandy would still get to build. And that's what we're looking at now, but even much worse. This judge has gone overboard in her treatment of this town, and we all agree on that. But if we can manage to try to salvage something that would be for the benefit of this whole town, you shouldn't poo-hoo it. You have to look at it. You have to look at the numbers. We have responsibilities as council people to look at every option available to our taxpayers. That's what we're doing. And I thank you for your comments. And I suggest that read the appeal, because it will really educate you on what this town is doing to appeal this process. There are many things that are appealable, and that's what we're working on.
Yeah, so let me just correct a few of your dishonest comments there. Mr.
Mayor,
Barr.
this is not okay. You don't get to speak.
Because you said I did something I didn't do. First of
That's
all,
not okay.
I did not approve any type of outreach for settlement with 800 Sylvan. 800 Sylvan should not have any residential housing. Are we clear on that? And stop
We-
making up stories there.
So,
Number two, you referenced the memorandum of understanding from last year. You
Right, which
sprung
you
that-
knew about.
You sprung that on Councilman Wu and me at the last minute after it had already been signed.
That's not true.
It is
That's-
very,
Mayor,
That is true.
I was not privy to that information either, because I was not on the Affordable Housing Subcommittee. So,
that doesn't make it okay because they tell you everything. They don't tell us anything. Mr.
Okay,
Councilman Wu,
that's not true.
Councilman Wu, were you aware before?
I was not aware of the sign
oh,
up.
Councilman Wu was not on the committee, so don't mix the information and, you know,
I wasn't on the committee either, and I found out when Councilman Wu found out. So
well, I wasn't on the committee
had a
either, so I didn't find out until you found out. So don't tell
respectfully,
the
that's not what
public,
Mr.
don't tell
Barry
the
said.
residents that, you know, everybody else knew, but, you know, the Republican council people, including you, the mayor, didn't have the information. I wasn't privy to that information either, Mayor.
No, Councilwoman O, that's fine, but that's not what Councilwoman.
That's not what's supposed to say.
No,
Councilwoman
what I
Sabari
said is
Let me
we
finish.
sat,
Let me-
we sat in closed session and we discussed the parameters of that.
Councilwoman
know that.
Sabari, just
That's-
so we're clear. You
That
can
is
tell
clear.
all the stories you want, and you tried to
That's
do
not
that
a
a year
story.
ago, and you're trying
That
to
is
do that
not a
again.
story. That's not a
We were
story.
not aware of what you
You
people are.
constantly suggest that we fire our attorneys, but refuse to
That
give a
cannot
I have my hand up. I have my hand up.
You can't do that. You refuse to give a recommendation for replacements because you know that that's not available. So, you know, let's be clear to the public where you stand.
Mr.
You only
DiGregorio,
take
we
part of
see
the
you,
story.
but Mr. Yehuda was up first. Okay, we'll get to you next.
can I answer, Ms. Sabari?
I would say no, because this is.
Okay, all right. Yes.
No, it's fine. I want to dialogue.
There's a lot of people here.
That's
that-
fine. We have all night. Mr. Mehta, go ahead, and then it's Mr. Yehuda, and then Mr. DiGregorio.
First of all, I was there at the council meeting. The recording is there on the 10th of July. I haven't made any kind of statement which Ms. Sabari is referring to. That's number one. Number two, I appreciate that developers have a right to develop whatever they need. But when Normandy bought the land and the office building, they bought it as a commercial office building. I am in real estate myself. They exactly understood, and from what I understand, and the appellate papers where Karen Geiger intervened against the planning board, those papers and where they were looking for variance, that was filed for an office building variance for some parking. So the fact of the matter is they did not buy this for residential. Everybody in the world knew that this was commercial office space building, the zoning. Okay, we do a lot of development in New York City and other states, including New Jersey. But they knew that this was office space. So they chose to buy and then basically get this development right by ambush. That's what it is. If this was zoned as a residential, the price would have been 2 or 3 times higher than where they were bought for. So that's not what the town basically they bought it for. And so I appreciate your answer to the people, but that's not what it is. Okay. Thank you.
Mehta,
Yes.
now I'm going to respond. I am also in real estate, which you know. And if you know about Normandy, they are commercial real estate developers. They
Right.
own only 3 properties that are residential, and one of them is ours. okay? If in fact we knew that that was what their plan was, to convert it to residential and put, development of a commercial property, and that's not really what they wanted. I understand, maybe that's a theory, but why didn't we just approve their plan? They would have had to come back to the planning board, right?
No.
But we didn't. So, we all have different views on this, and I would like to respectfully ask that we
Yes.
can agree to disagree, because I don't agree with you.
Right, let's agree to disagree, because everybody else is entitled to view, they want to raise other things.
Absolutely.
But we can discuss this, because that zoning change was actually going to facilitate them to sell off that small parcel so that somebody else can come and make the
Had to
same
come
application.
back. They
Anyway,
still would have had to have come back.
Mr. Mehta,
yes,
one thing that that I want to bring to the light is that, they were able to apply for builder's remedy because the planning board had declined the application for the commercial property. And let's not forget that. They knew that they were buying a commercial property when they bought the property, but when their application in front of the planning board got declined, that just opened up the whole can of worms with the builder's remedy lawsuit. Let's not forget that. I know the mayor just, he picks and chooses the information that he wants the residents to understand, but let's not forget that they knew what they were buying, but the minute that the planning board declined their application for a commercial property, that's when the builder's remedy lawsuit came about.
Yeah, so we're going to move on to Mr. Yehuda, but I just want to.
I think,
Hold on a second,
Yes.
Mr. Mehta. Hold on. Gloria, Councilwoman, just to be clear, what was rejected was actually the subdivision. We wanted them to redevelop that property commercially. So if you're going to tell the public the planning board rejected something, they didn't reject the project. They rejected the subdivision because they admitted to us themselves that they were going to pivot to residential as well. So I thank the.
I don't think that's
under the
true,
leadership
Mayor. I don't
Russell
think you're being
Marino.
honest with the public.
Well, you just made a statement and you didn't tell the full story.
I'm sorry?
You just made a statement about rejecting a planning board application and you didn't tell the public why it was rejected. And all I'm doing is explaining.
So
to
why
them,
was it rejected? Why
Because
was it
they want-
rejected, Mayor?
But because they wanted to subdivide, Gloria. We just went through this. And subdivision was not permitted.
That's not the only reason that it was declined, and you know that.
Well, you didn't mention any reason.
You know
just said
what,
it was
Mayor,
declined. So I think
Mayor, with all due respect, you pick and choose what you want to get out to the public, to the residents, okay? And
Well,
I
no,
think, and
I
I
try to
think,
tell them
I
everything,
think
which is what
it's
really
my turn to
bothers me.
speak. Can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's just forget about all the politics at this point, because a year ago, we had a better deal, better settlement. A year, 12 months later, after spending few millions of dollars in legal fees, we're in a worse position than we were in last year. Do you agree with that statement or not? Let's forget about the politics. Let's forget about politics, Mayor, for a minute.
Well, you're playing politics right now, but
You know what?
I'll tell you the truth.
Excuse me, it's my
Ask me a
turn
question.
to
Do you want me
speak.
to answer the question or not?
No, not yet, because
Okay,
it's
tell me when
my
you want me
turn
to
to
answer.
speak.
Tell me when you want me to
It's
answer.
about time for you to do the best thing for the residents of the town, okay? Forget about your affiliation to your political party. Forget about anything else. We need to fix the problem. We need to fix the problem, Mayor. You promised that you were going to stop 800 Sylvan Avenue when you ran.
And I did so far.
No, you did not. You did not. You keep pointing fingers at the people and you keep dodging, coming up with a real plan. You keep saying that you had a plan back in December of 2018.
We
That
did.
plan was never approved. It was never approved. And yet you tell the public that it was approved and we changed the course. That is not true.
Well, can I finish now? Permit me
Well,
to finish.
one more thing that
So
I'd like to make a clarification to the residents of the town. Mayor, you keep calling me corrupt. You keep calling me doing things behind the scene. It's not true. Be honest.
Gloria, there's been multiple
If there's
votes.
anything that you know that I don't know, maybe you should tell the public right
Let's-
now.
let's
But
unpack
I could
it.
tell you that there's nothing that I did behind the doors, okay? So
Number
stop
one,
telling the
I'll tell
people,
public, since you want
stop
to hear
keep-
about it. Number one, you abandoned a plan that was very workable, okay? We had a plan for 77 units. The planning board and council approved it, and then control changed.
that's
And all
not
of a
true.
sudden, You decided, no,
That
I
is
didn't
not
interrupt
true.
you, so please don't interrupt me. You decided that you were going to secretly negotiate a memorandum of understanding, which you did a year ago,
That
okay?
is not true. You're
did.
telling a lie.
Well, let me finish, because it's well documented, so I could support.
It's
what-
not well documented. Where is it documented? Show me the documents.
Actually, we have a
Sure.
document that showed up with the signed MOU. William Wu and I received it. William Wu, is that correct?
Correct, Mayor.
We were not involved. You did that behind our
I
back.
was not involved either because I was not on the subcommittee.
You are on the control of the council here.
I was not on the subcommittee. I was not part of
So are you
that
saying,
MOU.
look, you've said a lot, right? And you don't behave the way an elected official should behave, and I'm sorry about that, but I tried to work with you.
You
I
know
really
what?
did. Now, there were several votes taken to provide information to Councilman Wu and me, and you always voted no, that we should not get that information.
That's not true, Mayor.
And there's also there's a letter from our attorney saying that the majority on council directed them to not provide us with information. So, look, you could get in front of the public and sing your song, but really, I'm rooted in reality and facts, okay? And I'm not getting excited about this the way you are. Facts have no feelings. These are the facts, Councilwoman O. I don't think that it's appropriate to prepare for an appeal and then do what you're doing, which is to say that we need to cave in.
You know
don't
what,
cave in to
Mayor?
people like this.
What we discussed in closed session is what we discussed in closed session.
I know,
You
but you just
cannot
got in
talk
front of the
about it in
public here.
public. You should know that.
No,
And
no, but
Mayor,
you just
with
said in
all
front
due
of the public.
respect, when you call me that I'm corrupted and I'm doing things behind the back, doors, like closed doors, like how do you want me to defend myself?
Okay, let me just finish. So you just got up here 10 minutes ago and said to the public, hey, it's time to cave in, basically. It's
No,
time-
I did not.
You
I
did.
did not say that. You're
Okay.
twisting the facts. You're putting words in my mouth. I did not say that it's time to cave in.
You said it's time to
What
settle.
I said was that it's time for you to be honest with the residents and do what's in the best interest of the town and not your political affiliation.
So listen, the residents know where I stand. I oppose residential housing at 800 Sylvan. Where do you stand?
What did you say? Tell me one more, say that one more
Oh, no problem,
time.
I'll repeat it.
Yeah,
The residents all know that I oppose any residential housing at 800 Sylvan. Where do you stand on that issue?
Mr. Mayor, as you know, that's already like water under the bridge. Okay, you keep saying that you are going to do 100% residential affordable housing on our own, and you know that that's not doable. So don't keep saying the things that you can't not do. It's not practical at this point. Don't make the residents, think that this is something that we could do. You're not being honest.
We
You're
have
not being
the ability-
honest.
Okay, look, we have the ability to appeal, which is what we want to do.
Well,
And-
I agree with that,
and-
and we are.
And you
But
still
everything
have a-
else that you
Look,
say, I don't
You're the
agree.
one, you're the person who started this line of discussion. So I'm telling the residents that I still oppose any residential housing at 800 Sylvan. And I'm asking you whether or not you oppose residential housing.
Well, let me ask you a question then. You
No,
have a
answer my
solution?
question
You
first.
have a solution? You have a viable solution, not a political, statement that you want to put out there and you want to incite all the residents and you want to let the residents believe that there's something that you could do at this point to make this go away?
Okay, so
That's
number
not
one,
happening. That is not happening, Mayor.
okay,
After how many millions of dollars in taxpayers' money in legal fees, are you going to keep dragging this out?
Are you
Letting
finished?
people think that there's something that you could do to fix and stop?
are you finished? Okay, number one, you never answered the question about whether or not you were opposed to.
Because it's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's water under the bridge.
You're not going to answer the question because it's
Nobody
not.
answered my question. You're asking me something that,
That's fine, we'll move on. You don't have to.
okay,
answer.
move on.
You don't
Mayor,
have to.
I don't think we can continue with a back
No,
and
hold on. And then the second,
residents because
and then the second thing was that she asked me was whether or not, or what I can do to change things. We have the right to appeal.
We are appealing, Mayor. We are in agreement. We are appealing.
I hit it by accident.
Mayor, you keep muting me.
No, I
That
hit
is
it by
not
accident. I
okay.
apologize. Look,
Twice you hit it by accident?
I tried to unmute you and I muted you. Sorry, because Lizette unmuted you. So
Okay, can we
I apologize.
give
So
our
let me just finish
residents
this.
a chance
You
to-
asked me what to do, Gloria.
We can't have you give
We
a
have the right
commentary
to
to
appeal.
every resident.
All right,
Every
who's next?
resident at this point knows how you
Yehuda Shedi?
given a 30-minute
Shedi,
speech.
go ahead, sir.
Yes. Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. I'm Yehuda Shekedi, 16 Allison Drive, 27 years in town. Okay. We have essentially three players in this whole saga. We have the town, we have the builder, and we have the judicial system. Now, I did a little review, public information of the builder of Normandy, and I want anybody to challenge me to say if it's wrong. But let me tell you what I found. Normandy was acquired, was integrated on January 2020 into a larger company called Columbia REIT. Real Estate Investment Trust. And internal deals there are not that important, but the point is that this Columbia is a public company traded in the New York Stock Exchange under the symbol CXP. And there were very lots of resources. They have office buildings in New York and whatnot. What happens, we all know, in March with the COVID-19, the pandemic, there was a crash of real estate. And as a result, this REIT, this year, Columbia, the stock value dropped down 40% from 22 to 13. If you look now at all the metrics, all the financials, they reach a status of junk. In terms of interest rate they pay, in terms of the ability to borrow money, to get mortgages, to sell bonds and whatnot. So it really looks like all the investment community in New York or in the world expect them to either take some action, maybe divest or whatever, or probably go out of business. So given all this, I think they are paper tiger now. They are posing as if they have option. They have no option, in my view. They cannot borrow. Even if they get a license tomorrow to start digging and all this, they cannot do it. They have no cash and they cannot borrow any money. Therefore, my recommendation is to keep on pushing them in terms of appeals or whatever, pushing as long as we can, and time is working for us because they know they cannot they hope that things times will improve, but probably not in the next 2 to 3 years. and therefore they will have to either divest the property or maybe go out of business, or maybe even the town, we as the town will be able to buy that property for like a nickel on a dollar or so. So I would just push it back to them and challenge them, and definitely not reach any compromise with them. The strategy should be delayed as long as possible, and with all the legal maneuvers that are possible, and see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shkedi. I agree with everything you said. I appreciate your financial analysis. There's one fact point that I should mention is that when they merged, or when they were acquired by Columbia, they excluded the property at 800 Sylvan. So I'm not sure exactly how that factors in, but I agree with you. The real estate market prices and ability to borrow have been greatly and materially adversely affected over the last 2 months. So thank you. Who's next? Mr. Di Gregorio.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you, yes, sir.
Great. So Mayor Kranjak, good evening. First of all, I want to say I totally agree with you.
Just your name and address, please, sir.
Sure. David Di Gregorio, 165 Charlotte Place, Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey. I agree with the mayor that about developers. When you look at the type of buildings that many developers put up, they're fire traps. If you look at the fire in Edgewater, very lucky that nobody got killed there. So in that respect, really we're on the same page about developers. If only developers could have a motive of being human-centered. How can I put up the best structure for the people that are going to be living here, making this their home, having children, bringing up children? That's a human-centered, people-centered, and that's what we desperately need in the United States. That's why we have all this anger. A lot of the reason we have this anger is that we have such inequality. But that said, Mayor Kranjak, when, last summer, that meeting, you assumed, let's say, metaphorically, a pilot in an airplane, and you were taking all the residents are in the back of you, you're in the front, and you're piloting this airplane. And the trip or the journey is very expensive, and it's also very risky. The plane could crash. Residents need to know that the Kranjak airline could crash, and we could be having taxes raised and raised and raised. So I would say you have to be logical. If there's a way to settle, and if there's a way to hold the developer to a certain standard, and if there's a way to welcome, and I was the only one at that meeting. It was an angry crowd up there, but I'm proud. I was the only one that said, you know what? We should have our fair share, excuse the pun, of affordable housing in this town. We should. As decent human beings, we need to. We have to, but it should be built right. And if a settlement can be made, absolutely. I would rather see this community enriched by people that are not making tons of money. And I'd rather see this community be balanced. I'd rather see excellent housing and a wonderful community go up. And I'd like to caution all of the residents of that angry mob that was up there last year in July, that our mayor needs to be reasonable, needs to listen. He's got the responsibility of all of us in the back of his plane. And if he takes a risk, we're going to have taxes, we're going to pay legal fees, we're going to be, and we're going to have cheap housing, and we're going to have thousands more people in town, and they're going to be living in 10 years in squalor because the buildings are not going to be quality buildings. So I would caution Mayor Kranjak in many ways to be, extremely reasonable on this. And if there's a settlement that can be made, let's consider it, absolutely. And let's fight. Yes, I think we are being treated unfair. I agree that the judge, I mean, honestly, if you were the judge, Mayor Kranjak, and there was someone that was speaking the way you speak, you'd want to stick it to that person. And she's sticking it to you, and she's sticking it to all of us at the same time. So you've got to figure out how to take that plane into safe area and out of the turbulence. Thanks very much, and I wish everyone a wonderful evening.
Okay, well, I hate airplane crash analogies, so I won't go there. But you know, if anyone drives past 800 Sylvan, which I did today, there's no residential housing there. Okay, there's none, and it doesn't belong there. However, and I do agree that we do need to agree with
Resident, this is unfair. People don't speak.
Hold on a second, let me finish.
If they agree with you,
Gregorio raises some issues, and I want to
a half an hour speech.
look. If you have to go somewhere else, please go ahead. But like,
Let's give
this is
every
important.
resident an option to
Mr. Gregorio raises issues. You know, we do understand
you
that there is a
don't
law
like
that
what you
requires us to build affordable housing, and we will comply with that law. All I am saying is that we need to do it on our own terms. We have rights. You have rights. You are the taxpayers of New Jersey. Okay, you have rights. The fact that there's affordable housing laws is fine. We will comply with it, but that doesn't mean that you lose your rights. Whoever said that you have And then on the final point that Mr. DiGregorio raised, in terms of construction quality, I agree with you. We should not have toothpick construction anywhere in the state of New Jersey because it's dangerous. It's uninhabitable. It's not right to have multi-high density dwelling units made out of toothpicks, okay? When the borough plan was going to be built, it was going to be above standards that the state unfortunately has.
We never even got that far.
You mean the plan that was never approved, Mayor?
Okay, well,
Good job. Good job with that.
It wasn't approved and it
I'm
wasn't.
fine
You
with
know
you
what?
guys.
You're being very disingenuous.
However, you can snicker all you want when you don't have the audience, and you never do that. So who's next, please?
I just want to say before you leave me, thank you. Listen, I'm so glad we agree on that, Mr. Mayor. Very glad that we agree on the type of housing that's going up in the toothpick construction. But I appeal to you, and I appeal to everyone here to make sure that this pilot Kranjak, you can picture him with a hat on, piloting the plane, that he takes us out of the turbulence and he keeps our taxes low. So really, I think there's a lot that we can agree on, but there's also some things that we disagree on. So we have to bridge that gap as a community and move forward. There's so much to do in this community, so much innovation. It's a great town, and it could be even greater. And we could set the standards for towns across the country because we're small. And if people think out of the box a little bit, we can do things that are absolutely incredible and make this a community that is absolutely incredible and really worth living in and experiencing. And include a library in that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Si-young.
Hi, my name is So-young Lee. My address is
Please.
195 Pershing Road in Englewood Cliffs. So I actually just wanted to point out that I do commercial real estate in Manhattan, and when a developer gets rejection from planning board, they don't turn their project into residential from commercial. They had the intention of doing commercial. I mean, that's based on my review. And also, I just wanted to point out, Councilwoman O, water on the bridge. We are not in the situation where water under the bridge. Like, we have to appeal. There should be no residential apartment. Residential apartment at 800 Silva means a lot of taxes for all of us. And because of school and all other related service increases. And there, as Mayor Kranjak said, we have to appeal to the end. Legal fees I believe, I mean, it's my thought, and I know a lot of people agree with me. We are in a worse position because our town attorneys have not done a good job at all during the appeal process. They just went through the motions just so that they just filed papers. They really did not do their job. And the legal fees, after all those legal fees, they have not done a good job. So, you know, I believe we have to pursue our rights until the end. We should not settle. Any settlement at 800 Silva means other developers will have the right to build along 9W. It will be really bad for all of us in terms of taxes and services. We are not going to have the same town that we moved in. So please, and we can have a lot of disagreement. There can be a lot of politics. One thing that should be done is we have to fight to the end until this is over. We should not settle.
Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with you.
And Angela Cheng is next.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I just want to make a
Name and address, please.
Oh, sorry, Angela Chen, 10 Maple Street. I just want to make some comments regarding what Mrs. O has said. I think what made the case, why we lost the case last year, is basically our legal team did not do a great job, right? There's only two people got called to represent the borough, to be presenting in the court. How can we win the case? They did a very, very lousy job. $3.5 million has been spent. What we got, right? First of all, you, Mrs. O, you accused Mr. Kranjak that you think his plan didn't work, but the plan was building and they will move towards the positive direction. But then what happened? It's because the Democrats council has taken the majority, and then this plan suddenly stopped moving forward, and then that's the settlement. So how can the Republican move forward, because you guys take control and you guys do not want them to proceed with our own plan, right? Basically, you guys went behind and did the negotiation for the settlement last year. Okay, this year, again, we agreed and all the councils voted yes for appeal. And then what happened? You guys went behind, started negotiating the settlement again. So I don't know what's the detail about the settlement. I just want to know, when did you guys started renegotiate this settlement again? Is this really happening? I'm really pissed. We spent so much money, and I just heard that lawyer charged us $190,000 just for a couple of months. For what? What did he do? What did he do? And now you guys are telling me, oh, okay, we're going to settle. Settlement means we're stop appealing. Don't fool us.
Okay,
I
can
want to
I respond?
the end.
Can I respond to your comment? Who am I speaking with, by the way? I missed your name.
Angela Chan. Thanks.
Okay, Ms. Chan. The plan that this mayor keeps going back and telling the residents that the court had approved this plan back in December of 2018, that is untrue. It was never approved. There was a discussion, there may have been a handshake, but it was never approved. So to go back to that plan and say, well, we had a plan, why did you change the course? It's not fair, because that plan was never approved. Mayor keeps going back and telling the residents that it was approved, but he's not being honest because he knows that it was not approved. Okay?
He didn't say it was approved. He said they are working on it, but because you guys get on board and
No,
you guys
that's not true. He's only telling you what he wants you to believe. He's not being honest.
But why don't you guys work with him to develop
to work with him,
you
but
guys
he's-
never worked with him.
No,
right?
that's not
All
true.
I hear, I've been to so many council
Mrs.
meetings.
Chan,
All I see
Ms.
is just
Chan,
political fights
Chan,
again and again.
Ms. Chan, I know you
Yes.
come to all our meetings and you've been very active, okay?
Yes. I want to protect my property value, okay? I moved to this town,
Obviously,
not
everybody
being
does.
screwed by politicians.
Yes, obviously everybody does, but the point is, you know, he's making things political, and you know, I really want the mayor to do the right things for the residents.
Yes, can you tell me, or did you start renegotiate the settlement again this year? If so, when did you start? Can you respond to this question? Thank you.
Wait, say that question one more time.
Did you or anyone in the Democrat Council has restarted the negotiation with Normandy again? And if so, when did they start? Can you answer this question?
I'm going to refer that question to the borough attorney, and I'm not sure. No, seriously, like.
Why? You're on the council. You're on the council.
Who's speaking?
Could you please mute the rest of the public?
You know what? There's certain things that I cannot disclose to the public, and you know, things that may have been, you know, spoken in the closed session. So I just want to get a legal opinion whether I could answer that question.
You don't need to tell me. You don't need to tell me when. You just tell me yes or no. Is that a legal question? That's simply a yes and no question,
Well,
right?
I'm gonna refer that question to the borough attorney, okay? We don't need another lawsuit. This town has too many lawsuits, okay? Do you know
This town has too many lawsuits because the politicians are not representing our people's interests. That's the sole reason why there are so many lawsuits in this town.
Can I please have the floor? Can I please have the floor? Okay. There are a lot of allegations being made here. You know, first of all, we have really some of the top attorneys that are working on this case. Okay, Jeff Serenian is probably the top attorney. The case that you're referring to was to decide the RDP for this town. Okay, so the witnesses that were brought on were witnesses who could testify to what the appropriate RDP should be. Actually, the master in that case, who normally 99% of the time the judge would agree with whatever the master's recommendation was, the master actually recommended 154 units. And she recommended that we be able to come up with a plan to do it on our own. The judge overturned it. Okay, so our attorneys are quite good at what they do, and they're quite good at the appeal process that's going on now also. So, you know, don't feel slighted by our attorneys. We have the best attorneys. These attorneys were by our mayor. They were hired by our mayor. Okay, these are not new attorneys. These attorneys hired by Mayor Cranton. And they're actually very good. They do.
Is one hired by Mayor too?
That we disagree.
Let me just jump in here and clarify a few points.
Mario, you need to let me finish. I'm
sorry. I thought you were finished.
Addressing.
I thought you were finished because you started attacking me, so I wanted to defend myself.
I'm not attacking you.
Go ahead.
I'm not attacking you. I'm saying that our attorneys are more than qualified and some of the best at what they do, specifically Jeff Serenian. And the decision in that case, the master actually sided with us. And the judge overturned it. That's very rarely done. But for some reason, this judge seems to go outside of the box when it comes to this town. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, because she doesn't want housing built in Wyckoff. She wants us to build it here. You know.
But Mayor, we can't control Wyckoff.
Okay, so
we can't control that there are 300.
If you think the judge didn't make a correct judge ruling, we should appeal. We should not stop appealing and in turn to do the settlement.
If you have seen the most recent ruling by that judge, absolutely not. Of course she isn't ruling in our favor. She's really not being fair with our town at all.
So look,
then just appeal.
Let me just finish.
We do have.
Let me just have the floor for a minute, Mr. Bari.
To provide affordable
Mr.
housing.
Bari, please let me have the floor for a minute.
No,
So,
let me finish my statement.
I thought you were
I
finished.
don't interrupt you.
Go ahead, finish.
The
I keep
law
asking
says
you to
that
finish.
we have to provide affordable housing. Right now, if we had the settlement that we had a year ago, I personally would recommend that this town move forward with that and drop everything else that's going on, because that's what's going to happen. Ultimately, you can push this out, And you can hope that Normandy is going to go bankrupt. If that's the hope, that's, the better those odds are not good odds. So ultimately, we are going to have to provide affordable housing. The number is going to be somewhere probably in 180 units. And it would be much better for this town. And believe me, it's here, right? Why would I recommend putting something in my backyard if I didn't think that was the best opportunity for this town? So when you think that I'm corrupt, or you're being told by the mayor that I'm corrupt, think again. Because if I didn't want the best thing for this town, I would never say that this is something that we should consider, because we should consider it. Because if you look at the town and the different locations, this would be the best opportunity for the town. If we have to do this, we should think about it. We should look at the numbers, and we should look at what it does to the school system, and stop just screaming that we're not going to do it. Because ultimately, you have to do it.
We had a plan that we're going to build on our term, right? And even it may not satisfy, we can help to develop something else, and but not using 800 Silver. We never opposed affordable housing. We opposed these market rate apartments, right? So you have to understand, we don't want these several hundred, 500, 400, and 600 units. And we can totally stop that by doing that on our own term, just for finding suitable locations. That can be done. I believe in that. And you guys just wait, turn around and making the settlement then.
Okay, so let me just say, look, we did hire good attorneys. The problem is that when they worked for our council in 2018, they were actually working on for the benefit of the borough. When control shifted at the beginning of 2019, those very same attorneys were directed by Ms. Sabari, Councilwoman O, at the time Ellen Park, Jimmy Song, and Ed Aversa. And they were told to do things differently. And how was that different? Well, they were told to not share information with William, Wu, and me. And
that's not true, Mayor.
No, it is true, because there's emails and there's public votes where you voted to not have that information to us. And in fact, there's a letter from the lawyer saying that we're not allowed to give you this because the Democratic Council majority said, no, we can't give it to you. So we are in front of the public now, Ms. Sabari and Councilwoman O, and we have to be honest and we have to be forthright. Now, with respect to
we are being honest.
The trial for the RDP.
Well, it would be not refreshing change, Mario, if you actually were
have the floor after me, Ed, is all you want, Ed, but let me finish. Yeah. As far as the trial goes, yes, it was about RDP, but this judge went beyond that, and our lawyers were unprepared for that because they only had 2 expert witnesses regarding RDP. They didn't ask Chairman Perino of the Planning Board or former Councilwoman McMorrow or me or anyone else.
On affordable housing RDP.
Let me finish. I'll put you on mute because you're interrupting me now, okay? Look, they didn't ask any of us to come and testify at the trial to explain that when I say we want to comply with the law on our own terms, what we actually did in that period of time to create a plan, to hire the professionals, to just do everything we had to do to become compliant, and we did it all. And that never got in front of the judge. So your lawyers, and I'm one, are only as good as your clients are letting you be, okay? And unfortunately for this town, this council and last year's council restricted the lawyers from actually fighting, okay? I still believe we should appeal and that we will prevail, because if you notice the way the judge makes decisions, they become more and more radical. And so you have more and more grounds to appeal and to prevail on. So thank you, Ms. Chang, for your comment.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Perino. He's muted.
Russell Perino, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Russell Perino, 220 Fairview Avenue. A couple of questions. I'm going to bring this up at every Zoom meeting. I think this is number 3 or 4 now, where the majority of the council, Democratic council members, refuse to be seen. I've been trying to watch tonight, and there's times where all 4 Democratic council members cannot be viewed. And although the argument's been made that that's okay, it doesn't break any rules, we don't know, I don't know, if you're having a conversations in the background outside of the purview of the public. So when 4 out of 4 members, now you've got a council majority out of 4, right? You've got a quorum there. I'm not saying that anyone's breaking any rules, but you know what? It gets very questionable. Councilperson Song, I appreciate that you were actually seen, but I've seen nothing but your forehead and above. So there seems to be a conscious effort to hide behind masks. Councilwoman Oh, thank you tonight. You've actually been front and center. But there seems to be, and I don't know what the reasoning is. It's not just because someone's having a bad hair day, as Councilwoman Sabari suggested last meeting.
No, that was me.
Not right. You're
That
elected
was me.
officials, and if
Yeah.
I may finish,
And I'm still
please
having a
do
bad
not
hair day.
interrupt me. Please let me speak. You all have an elected position. You have to understand the seats that you hold. You should have some decorum. The person speaking should be allowed to finish their thought. Then you're free to respond. That's the way we conduct our planning board meetings. That's how you all should behave here tonight. So what I was going to say was, I'm going to bring it up at every meeting because I find it unsavory. And if folks claim to be transparent, this is actually, I think, the opposite of transparency, where we can't even see your faces. The Republican council persons and the mayor are sitting there with suit and ties every single meeting. Good hair, bad hair, they're there. And I think it's important that the residents want to see you, they want to see your facial expressions, and they want to see you not having conversations outside of this meeting. So I'll leave it at that. I'm going to bring it up every meeting. You can continue to be blacked out and to hide behind darkness, but I'm going to keep bringing it to the public's attention because I think it speaks volumes. I think it really does. So that's one point. The second point is a council person. Oh, you went back and you made some claims before that are outrageously false. Not just false, but outrageously false. And I think you know that they are. So I'm going to correct them for you. Okay, because I was involved in the Normandy application starting in June of 2017. That's 3 years ago. Long before you even knew what was going on there. You've made the statement that the minute the planning board denied the application, that's when the builder's remedy lawsuit could proceed. I'm paraphrasing, I could be off by a word or two, but that's your statement. And I'm going to tell you why that's outrageously false. The builder's remedy lawsuit had absolutely nothing to do with the commercial application that was heard by the planning board. Absolutely nothing, right? That decision was made. I stand behind it. We've been completely vindicated based upon information that became public after the fact. We knew that that subdivision that they were demanding would bring development rights in the future. We didn't know how quickly they were going to actually try to use those development rights, but that's what we were concerned about, was one of the things. So I was there, boots on the ground, 4 nights over a period of 4 months. So that's the reason why that was denied, okay? Because they demanded a subdivision, they wouldn't back off, and we saw through it. We knew there was development rights that would come with it. It concerned us, they refused to yield. That's the way it works. We stood our ground, we never wavered. And I think it's important that this governing body realize you need to have a strategy, and it can't keep flip-flopping every 3 or 6 months. You can't expect victory in any business decision or governmental decision when the strategy is not continual. You have to have a plan from the beginning. You adjust it as you see fit, but you don't reverse 180 degrees, in this case, 3 or 4 times. So you want to talk about this remedy lawsuit, the builder's remedy lawsuit? There's only one reason why that was allowed to proceed. Normandy had tried to institute a builder's remedy suit back in December into January of 2018. Judge Toscos had denied the application because we had immunity. When we lost our immunity in August of 2019, that's when the builder's remedy could proceed. And why did we lose our immunity? Because the Democratic-controlled council convinced the judge to postpone the trial for a period of 5 or 6 months. It was supposed to be in January. She postponed it and postponed it again because you were secretly negotiating with Normandy and Fair Share Housing.
Okay, Mr.
I am not
Perino,
finished.
Mr. Perino, I have to interrupt
Councilwoman,
when you
interrupt me. You will not interrupt me. I'll let you know when I'm finished. I will.
Mayor,
Mr.
stop
Mayor, you
muting me.
cannot mute her.
Mayor, stop muting me.
Please.
I have to interrupt when
Be
somebody
professional.
calls me
You can
corrupt and
disagree
making
afterwards.
secret
You
deals,
cannot disagree
okay?
in the middle of my conversation.
Not interrupt the resident.
Excuse me,
Stop.
excuse me, excuse
Please
me.
stop. I am
Excuse
not
me.
going to stop speaking
No,
until you
I
stop.
need to defend
You do not have
myself
the
because
floor.
now
I have the
you're
floor.
accusing
I'm a member
me
the
of
public, and
making
I said
deals
you're going
in
to
a,
stop speaking
in the back
now.
room.
President has the
No.
floor. You can have the floor after, Councilwoman O.
The
Enough. You
resident
can
is also
respond
the
after
chairman of the
Councilman O.
planning
You can
board
control
who started
yourself.
this whole
Show
problem.
some self-control. You can control yourself. Otherwise, I ask the the clerk to please mute her if she can't help herself.
You go ahead, Mr. Perino. Councilwoman O, I assure you, you'll have the floor again after.
Okay.
So getting back to the builder's remedy could proceed only when we lost immunity. We lost immunity for one reason and one reason only, because the judge felt that she was jerked around for a period of months, making that the borough was planning on settling, then in July or August, oops, you turned 180 degrees again. That pivot, that reversal in strategy and decision-making allowed the judge to pull our immunity. Otherwise, although she may have liked to have done so before, she never had the grounds to do so. Once you lose your immunity, then builder's remedy lawsuits can proceed. That's the way it works. If you ask attorneys, they will tell you that. I think you know that already. So please do not posture and lay the blame at the planning board. Builder's remedy lawsuit. They're completely unrelated. They are completely unrelated. And I'm almost finished. Statements were made that we're in a worse position than last year. Okay, I'll accept that for a moment. Why did you not settle the case? You had the votes in July. Why didn't you continue through? If you felt, as representatives of this borough, if that was the right thing to do, why didn't you finish the job?
Because we listened to the residents. The mayor last year, exactly almost a year ago, he had 300 people show up at the school. Majority of the residents were against settlement. Okay, Mr. Perino, we listened to the residents.
Fair, that's fair, but you also bowed to public opinion. So to come back now a year later and say, you know what, well, we really need to settle now. I'm going to guess on much worse terms. You have a habit of interrupting people when they're in the middle of a sentence. Wait until I finish the sentence, then you can speak. What I was trying to say was that it's very, very disruptive to try to collect one's thought and speak when you've got someone speaking over and through. So what I was trying to say was that if you felt we should have settled, then you should have done it then, and it would have been over, right? That was a decision that you made to flip-flop because of public opinion. So be it. But now we seem to be back in exactly the same place as we were a year ago, where there's a change of heart, where, oh, maybe we should settle again. I think, though, you should bring this into the public purview. Don't make the same mistakes you made last year. If it's your intent to settle, you have the votes to do that. But don't do it behind closed doors, without lunch, doing this without the full consent of the council.
You know what, here we go again. You're accusing us of doing things behind the closed doors, and that's when I have to interject and correct you, Mr. Perino. Okay? Because there's nothing going on behind the doors, Mario, and you know that. Look at the smirk on your face. Be honest with the residents, okay?
Can't believe
You are inciting the residents. You're rehearsing with them about what to say at these meetings. And you know what, Mario? You have ruined this town. Okay, we were Englewood Cliffs at one point before you became the mayor. was the envy of Bergen County.
They're still the envy.
Now we are the laughing stock, okay? So,
Councilwoman O,
Mr.
Councilwoman O.
Perino, I want to correct you on two things that you spoke about. We are not in the same position as where we were last year. We are in the worst position. That's number one. Number two, talk about conflicts. Maybe you should not have been that tie vote on that application. You should have recused yourself.
Why? Why would you say, why don't you explain why I should have recused?
You know
You're
why?
playing
Because
attorney now. Tell me why.
didn't you have a lawsuit against Unilever?
Let me fill in the blanks here for you. My parents had a lawsuit that ended in 2004. The lawyers for 800 Sylvan Avenue in the prerogative writ case involving the planning board made a motion alleging that I had a potential bias because of conflict of interest. The judge heard that motion, and guess what happened? She denied their motion. It happened decades ago. I was not even living in the house at the time. My parents have lived there since 2004. So you can make these accusations for political grandstanding.
They
They're
still
not
own the.
true.
They still own
They're
the
not
home.
true. Judge,
That's not the reason, that's not the reason they deny, that's not the reason they overturn it.
I still have the
you were-
floor as
you-
a member of the public.
As
It's
usual,
very rarely
you tell half the
does
story, Russ, half the story.
I can't even hear what you're saying, Councilman Aversa. It's very rare that you'll get a judge to actually rule on a question. She ruled on the question that Councilperson O just raised. The allegation she made was decided by the judge based upon facts, not political fiction. There's a big difference. So go ahead.
The facts were that they should have brought it up sooner, and that's what the judge said. So she did not say that it was right or wrong. She said that if they knew that, they should have brought it up sooner.
That's
what they said.
That's right. She did
Don't-
mention that. but
Don't
that is-
misinform the public that you're
my
so
God.
free and clear. The reason was that they didn't bring it up initially. So be fair and be honest. That's all.
Councilman Aversa.
Thank you.
There were
That's
many,
true.
her decision, I'll publish the decision so you can read it. I'll read it to you at the next meeting. There's
I read
many
it okay,
things.
Russ. I'm okay with it.
The judges always have multiple reasons for their decision.
Of
Let me know when
course.
you finish, Councilman Aversa. Let me know when you finish.
Of course.
I'll let you finish. Are you finished?
With what? With your nonsense? With your nonsense?
Councilman Aversa, I know
With
you're
your
not running
nonsense
for
to
office
finish, I'll
again,
finish.
and that's why you think you can be belligerent toward not just the mayor, but members of the
I can
public.
be belligerent when you
Shame
tell half
on
a story,
you.
Russ,
You're
and you're very good
speaking
at telling half a
nonsense.
story.
Nonsensical.
You're
Please.
the chairman of the planning
Stop.
board, and you
I
love
can't
to
even hear what you're saying. No
pontificate.
one cares, Ed. Just stop.
No,
Just
you
stop.
don't
I'm a
care.
member of the public. I have the right to speak. I'm speaking the truth.
You're
Okay,
the
you don't want
chairman
to
of
hear
the
it
planning
because
board.
it deflates your political arguments. I know you're not running again, so you think you can mouth off all you want. Just please
Whatever
stop.
you think. Russ, keep
Be a
on
professional.
pontificating. Go ahead.
Be
I'm
a
sure Mario
professional.
will let you speak
Be a
tonight, so go ahead and
professional.
speak. Go ahead.
I
You be a
I will.
professional too,
The reason
Russ.
why the planning board was brought up tonight was because Councilperson O made statements that were completely false. And I will, every chance I get up and correct those false statements. I've been there through
Of
the whole
course you
process.
will.
I
Of
know
course you
what
will.
happened. I know who said what.
Well, we all know what happened. Thank you, Mr. Perino.
I didn't say I was finished.
Let Mr. Perino.
I didn't say I was finished.
Interrupting.
So the behavior of Councilperson
Excuse me,
O
we don't want to
and
hear you.
Councilperson Aversa this
Can you
evening
get off the
is
thing and get back to
completely
the agenda,
unacceptable.
Okay?
And they have to be somehow reined in. These Zoom meetings require a certain amount of professionalism and allowing one person to speak at a time.
Thank you.
I didn't say I was finished. You keep interrupting me. It's very hard to finish my train of thought when I've got two or three people screaming, making political statements that are false.
And what you're doing up there tonight is not political.
I mean, what
Perino?
a hypocrite you are, Russ Perino.
Yeah.
You
What was
sit
that?
up
I'm
there,
sorry. I couldn't hear
pontificate,
that.
about your
Hypocrite.
political agenda, and you have the nerve to
Thumbs
call
down.
everybody else political. It's okay, Russ. If you're done, thank you. If you're not, continue and finish.
Why don't you let the
You
residents,
seem very angry.
you can have
very,
the
very-
floor after him, Mr. Aversa.
So,
Oh, you said you couldn't hear me, Russ. I'm just making sure you can.
Mayor,
well, you
he's
seem,
not, he's
there's a
not,
lot of venom in your voice. Ed, why don't you come
No
up and so we
venom.
can see you? You seem
Russell
like a lot of anger in
Perino,
your
I am
voice.
the happiest person ever. So
You're very
you can
angry,
say all
Ed.
you want. It's you
Very angry. I
screwed
don't know
up.
why.
We appreciate what you did for us.
Not attack
Great
residents.
job. Thank you.
Please don't attack the residents. Let them speak.
he's also the chairman of the planning board, Mayor.
Right, and I thank you, Russ, for doing that. It's a thankless task, and you're doing great at it. I appreciate everything you and your team do. How about some
Thank
gratitude,
you.
Victoria?
Can I have the floor?
I'll leave it at that because there's no sense in bickering back
I
and
just
forth.
want to mention one,
Okay.
Councilman Sabari, you can have the floor right after this. I just want to make one comment.
He is finished though, right?
I don't know, are you finished, Mr.?
I have respected his.
I am, unless someone's going to comment, make a comment directly affecting what I said, then I'll stay on the floor. If they're going to speak about something else or invite another member of the public, fine.
I just want to say one thing, Councilman Sabari, you can have the floor, and I'll say it after.
Okay. Russ, you speak about last July and the change of position. Okay, we sat in a meeting where our residents were told by our attorneys, the same people who we looked to for direction, that we did not have a chance of winning against Normandy. So the residents were very upset. The mayor also incited that crowd. And because of that, we, at the next meeting, we did in fact say that we would honor what the residents wanted. And I did make it very clear that this was coming with a lot of risk. And I was asked what kind of risk. And I said the risk that they would still get to build and we would have to build also. That's happened to us now. And we're trying to deal with this through the appeal process. And if, in fact, there was an opportunity to settle this in a way that mimicked the MOU, for the most part, that would be a very good settlement for this town. That's my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. Nobody has to agree with it. But I personally think that it was a mistake. In hindsight, we should have considered it more before we walked away from it. But residents were led to believe that there was corruption and other things going on behind the scene. I've never been corrupt. I've never done anything wrong. I'm not getting anything for any of this, and I want to make that clear. Now, I understand that you felt, when you were on the planning board, that Normandy was going to do a bait and switch, and you feel that that's been vindicated. Maybe it has. I don't know. I don't know if we wouldn't be in the same place today, right? Because we could have. But if you would have approved their application, they still would have had to come back to you to change it to residential. And we'd still be in the same place, but they would have had to come back to you. And then it would have been exposed if in fact that's what their original plan was. But in all fairness, it was the Democrats, right, who in 2015 got us our immunity back. We had been without immunity for 20 years. Okay, and we got it back. We never had a problem while we were without immunity. We got it back by filing a plan that called for us to build 9 units at the club there on Hudson Terrace. Now, from 2016, January 2016 until November of 2017, that plan was not acted on. There were no units built there for those 9 units that were agreed to in a plan with the master. So let's be fair now, okay? We didn't start really talking about this until after Normandy came back and filed the builder's remedies suit. So everybody's got a little bit of blood on their hands here, okay? Nothing was done by the Republicans during that period of time either to meet our affordable housing obligation.
Well, that's an outright lie.
So what we need to do, that's not an outright lie.
It is an outright lie.
What we
created
all
a
need
plan.
to do
And by
now
the way,
is
you
do
lost
what's
immunity
right.
in August
See, you're cutting me
2019.
off. You said you would let me speak.
You lost immunity in
Let me
2019 when you controlled.
Okay?
Go ahead.
No, we would have lost that immunity anyway when we didn't settle. If we hadn't even discussed that, we still would have lost it.
No.
That just extended the time that the judge gave you her decision.
The
That's
judge
all.
got annoyed with you because you told her you're going to
No,
settle.
she was,
You abandoned
was
my plan.
Mayor, she was annoyed with you and
No,
your
I know she's
behavior.
annoyed with me because she's got.
And I don't think she has the right to be annoyed at anybody, to be quite honest. We have a right to freedom.
Yeah. Thank you.
As much as I
So,
don't agree
if
with
I'm going to just make a quick comment and I'll wrap up. In January of 2016, I was a new member of the planning board, just sworn in as an alternate. But I was invited also into the committees, the master plan committee, et cetera. We had, I think it was the first or second meeting I attended, was a meeting regarding the affordable housing and a potential adoption of a housing plan for 9 units. And a presentation was made by Steve Lydon, the planner for the borough. And Michael Cates was the attorney, appointed by Parisi appointees. Obviously, we didn't have control. The Republicans did not yet control the planning board. And at the end of the presentation, Michael Cates said, I advise the board not to vote on this plan tonight. Why? There was something to do with the special master wrote a letter that had to be addressed, et cetera, et cetera. And I got up and I spoke, and it's on the record. It's in the minutes. You can look at it. Well, why aren't we adopting this plan tonight and then make amendments to it later on? I know as a developer what it means, you know, to have your housing plan approved by the courts versus not. So I, in the back of my mind, I was concerned about it. Michael Cates kept saying, no, 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 you shouldn't vote on it tonight. We didn't have the votes, so it didn't get voted on. I brought this up, and you haven't heard this before, members of the council or the public. I brought it up in our committee meetings 3 or 4 times that year, saying, Mike Cates, Ed Fair, what's going on with affordable housing? And every time I asked, Michael Cates would throw his hands up and say, oh, I'm not involved in it anymore. Now that's after the government control had shifted, but the planning board control had not. So I kept bringing it up because I knew that there's always, you know, we have our flank open, let's call it, right? So me, for one, when I remember sitting as an alternate member of the planning board, was bringing it up and trying to get it done. There were many reasons why the plan wasn't completed, including there was a period of 6 or 9 months where the special master wasn't available because she was dealing with other crises, maybe some medical issues, I'm not sure. I think both. So you have to look back to the 25 or 35 year period to see what happened and when. But you know what? It doesn't matter anymore. We're in today. And what are we going to do today? What are we going to do tomorrow? So I think if there's going to be a conversation about settlement or about litigating, there has to be something of a dialogue and not spring a settlement agreement on the borough, on the residents, like happened last year. That's what I'm trying to say. I've been blocked out of this thing, as you know, since the minute you took control in 2019, I'm sorry. So, you know, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I do read everything that's posted on the e-courts. So I'm kept up to speed that way. All right. And I'm not going to hypothesize about what your decision should be. It would be inappropriate for me to do so. But I do think you should be very careful and not do it under the cover of darkness.
Nothing is being done on the cover of darkness.
I'm talking about the future. I make no accusations except for the fact that nobody's willing to show their faces at public meetings. That's all.
There's a lot of things going on with Zoom and what happens to people who do show their faces, and I don't care to be one of those people.
That's fine. Do whatever you want. But here's the thing. There are things
I am
going on
going
in
to
the
do
back.
whatever I want, Mayor. Don't cut me off.
Are you finished?
Yes, I'm finished now.
You've had the floor for half an hour. So look, things are going on behind my back, and I found out about it from Judge Farrington's opinion or decision in another case that there are settlement discussions going on. So that's fact. You guys didn't tell me. I found out. Let me finish. I found out from Judge Farrington's written decision in another case unrelated to affordable housing. So that's a shame. The other thing that I think is a shame is
that decision had to do with the request for the MOU.
No. But she referred to ongoing settlement discussions. Okay, Debbie, you could.
No, if you read the brief of Joe Marinello, you'll know that it appears that way, and you know as well as, well, actually the public can't know because I really shouldn't even be speaking about this. You know that nothing was going on behind your back.
You're jumping down that rabbit hole even further because, again, I found out about your settlement discussions from Judge Farrington in another case. That is clear. The other thing that the public needs to know is last June 10th, last week, we had a motion on the floor to investigate certain people on the council, and they all voted against it, and that included Councilman Minot and Councilman Aversa. So I find it amazing that they would raise any type of conflict of interest claim with Russ Perino tonight, having just voted down an investigation of themselves. So who's next?
Mayor, can I make a couple comments as well? I mean, everyone says nothing was going on behind anyone's back, but I re-echo the fact that it is disconcerting that when I asked for an investigation last week, immediately everyone jumped up to vote no. People proposed saying, let's have the entire council investigated. That would be fine. If we could pass a resolution like that today, that would be fine. I think there's a narrative going on tonight, which is basically saying that we're in a worse position this year from last year. I think it's a risk assessment that we're presenting to our residents right now. I think there's some members of the council that are saying, hey, maybe we should be consider settling. Right now, let's keep in mind the big macro situation we're in. We're in a once in a century business climate. One of the residents spoke earlier about how bank lending has died up. There's billions of dollars being put out in PPP loans and EIDL loans. The last thing banks are looking at right now is taking on further risk. Last year during the July meeting, I said the biggest risk, and my position stands, is if we settle with 800 Sylvan, it potentially opens up the rest of 9W, the rest of Sylvan Avenue. And I think that's my key issue. You know, I think we cannot open up. I use the word Pandora's box. We just can't open it up. And we should fight. We've already fought. We've already spent the money. It should have been a much harder fight. I think residents can have their own opinion about that based on the facts that they learned from each mayor and council meeting. But that doesn't mean we can't fight to the end, right? We can still prevail.
Councilman Wu, I absolutely agree with you, but you know, we can do both. We can fight and we could try to settle. We don't have to take one way or another, okay? And that's all I'm gonna say without going into the details, because I can't. But I'm not saying that we're not gonna try to, you know, appeal, all right? But there's a way that we could do both.
I'm not in favor of putting any blood in the water, okay? And by the way, I spoke to a couple mayors who settled, or who are in the process of settling, and what they said to me was, don't settle now. You're
Mr. Mayor.
going through this 100-day period, 3-month period, where the whole world has changed. Don't settle, because there's no banks lending on these projects. No one's doing it. They regretted their settlement, and their public is letting them know how unfortunate they were in their timing, because some, I can't get into who it was, but they just thought it was devastating that they settled, and we are in a position to appeal because you have the right to appeal. Don't let people tell you that as tax-paying citizens of Englewood Cliffs of the state of New Jersey, somehow your rights could be taken away by a lower court judge who lives in a town that is not compliant herself. Don't let people tell you that. We have to fight. All right.
Mayor, we are fighting. Don't let the public, don't mislead the public in saying that we're opposed to fighting and we're opposed to appealing. We are appealing.
Go ahead, Mr. Park.
You know
Thank
that.
you.
Yes, good evening, everybody.
I'll defer to him right now.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Park. Okay,
This is Concepcion.
Mr. Park?
Okay, thank you. My name is Drew Park, 54 Ash Street.
I'm sorry, Mr. Park. Mr. Sohn, we'll come right back to you, okay? I'm sorry. Mr. Park was up first. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mayor. Actually, I just wanted to just kind of agree with what Councilman Wu just said before, right? Right now, we should be looking at a risk assessment, quite frankly, right? The piece of that we really have to look at, and I've been through probably 4 of these sessions since last a year ago, and quite frankly, all I hear is really things about the past. Everything is about the past. What I don't hear is anything about what we're really doing on the go forward basis. Probably about 1% of the 4 hours I've been through tonight has been about the go forward. And Councilman Wu, thank you for bringing that up actually, right? And Mr. Perino, you brought it up as well. About today and then on the future tomorrow. I couldn't care less about what occurred 10 years ago. It's too late. You can't recreate it. What are we doing about tomorrow, right? And whether it's an appeal, then great. And it sounds like both parties here are actually in agreement that an appeal is a path. So my first question on the appeal is, are both parties agreed on the terms of the appeal? What are we appealing? Do both parties agree that we are appealing this and we're pursuing that collectively and together? Because at the end of the day, I don't care about whether you're a Republican. I don't care whether you're a Democrat. I don't care whether you're an independent, right? And that's what we're all saying, but then all I hear is all this politics coming in throughout the conversation. Right?
We for the most part, agree on what we're appealing. I believe we have claims that can be asserted as well, and that's where we differ. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I think that's great. So there's an agreement on that point. So that's awesome to hear, quite frankly, because for the last year, it's really been, from my perspective, and quite bluntly, childish. All right. Again, going back to the risk assessment aspect of things, right? We do have to be pragmatic about it. Mr. Mayor, I personally disagree that we can go on one linear path and just stick to that until it ends, because we may fall off the cliff, right? And we have to have a multi-pronged approach to this. Now, whether that path from the appeal is from a judicial standpoint and legal, on a settlement piece is not that you're settling. The settlement piece should be about the negotiation. You have to be open to negotiation. And frankly, right now, we're in a negotiation amongst ourselves, right? But we have to be multi-pronged, because otherwise we're linear and we'll just continue to waste time and talk about the legal expenses. You go down one path, you're going to spend millions of dollars in legal expense. Then we hit a wall. Then we have to divert again. Why can't we go parallel paths? And frankly, as politicians representing the public, I expect you guys to be negotiating. What other role do you guys have in this space right now? You should be negotiating. Whether it's a conversation, whether it's the Democrats having a conversation, whether it's the Republicans having a conversation, someone better be having a damn conversation with them to understand exactly what they're looking for and not, and bringing that back to the table. If we're kind of, this bickering has been horrendous. I've been here for nearly 30 years. This bickering has been demoralizing, right? And again, I'm not signing one way or the other, right? I'll full disclosure, my wife is a registered Democrat. I am not. I'm an independent. But we have to get to the point of what we're talking about tomorrow. We have to stop talking about, oh, we did this with that filing, and you did this and that, right? So please, I beg with you guys, don't waste my time in the next session. Don't waste the 80 other people on this Zoom call in the next session, bickering about the past and pointing fingers left and right. Because quite frankly, none of us have the whole picture. And you guys will pick up and piecemeal, irrespective of the party, what you want to represent out, right? So none of us will ever get the whole picture. So please join. And it sounds like the appeal piece is one good place to join. I suggest you really look at that risk assessment, because again, last year there was a risk assessment done, right? And that the risk assessment said we could be worse off, and frankly, right now we are worse off. When we talk about doing everything with our terms, as of right now, the judicial system told us we do not have our own terms. We're taking a gamble by appealing to try to get back our own terms. So please, let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Mr.
Sangani.
Mr. Sangani, then Mr. Sohn.
Yogan Sangani, did you wish to speak?
Yes, hi. My name is Yogan Sangani. I live at 63 Center Street. And I'd like to echo the sentiment of the resident who spoke just before me. What I understand is we spent something like $3.5 million so far on this litigation. I'm not sure how accurate that number is. What I've not heard is how much we expect to spend in the appeals process going forward. What is our plan? How far do we intend to continue that in terms of our expenses and our exposure? And what is our downside risk? We are currently worse off than we were last year this time. What is our downside risk beyond the cost of litigation as we continue on this appeals process? And I guess that's a question for Mayor Kranjak.
In terms of quantifying the appeals expenses, I don't have those. I don't believe I have them readily available. But I believe in the budget we had, what was it, Councilwoman Sabari, $1 million for the
$1.3 million, I believe, Mayor.
Okay, and there's a lot of fluff in there, right? Because there's 4 lawyers working on affordable housing. 3 full-time basically, and you only need 1 at this point. So I asked the council to cut the 2 that are not needed any longer. Certainly the 4th person was never needed, but they haven't gone along with that yet. There's going to be a budget approval on July 8th. I welcome people to come and trim that budget down because you really don't need more than the litigator that we have. The ultimate downside is, of course, that we lose, right? And that's always the problem. But I believe that strongly that this judge has overstepped so much, failed to apply relevant facts, and misapplied the law, that we stand a good chance of at least extending the timeout and winning on many of the issues. The worst case is, I guess, we end up where we are right now, right? So, which is not acceptable because it's also not within the confines of the applicable law. So that's all I'm asking, is that the council unite on fighting back to get to a point where we have the right to solve our own problem, which this judge never gave us the right to do.
Just one follow-up is a lot of the discussions today, almost all of the discussions today, and also last year, the town hall discussions, there was a lot of time spent on disagreements, I guess, between the Republican side and the Democrat side, and not enough time spent on evaluating and comparing the options being proposed. I guess there's a lot of finger pointing and questioning of the motives of the other side, as opposed to just discussing the merits of the respective strategy. I'd like to see more of discussing pros and cons of each approach, as opposed to finger pointing on motives of the other side.
Yeah, so I absolutely agree with you. I always tell people that, you know, once the campaign is over and the election is over, and let's say you won, the campaign stops and the politics stops, and you have to work together for the benefit of the people, not just who voted for you, but for everybody. And when we had the council control, we really tried to do that and be inclusive of the 2 Democrats at the time. Councilman Wu and I last year, and Councilman Farrow with us this year, we get excluded from a lot. Like, for example, like I said before, we didn't even know negotiations were taking place or where they were until last Friday. And this has been going on for a while. So I wish, and I asked the council to include us, to work with us. You make your own life harder, because then you're right. We spend half the time arguing about what you did wrong over the last month or when we find out. So we're always available to be consulted. And it actually, you know, in a lot of ways, it helps you to include us, because then I can't sit here saying that you excluded me. It's just a bad strategy that you have. It's a bad strategy for you politically, and it's a bad strategy for the town, because we're not working together. So thank you,
Mayor,
Sangani.
I have to respond to that. You're being disingenuous again, and you are doing exactly what the resident asked you not to do, talking about the past, okay? Come up with the solution. Let's talk about what we can do together to move forward, to make this go, you know, in our favor somehow.
Well,
Don't go back and say you weren't given this information, that information. I was not given that same information that you claim that you were never given. I was not on the committee, and you were not on that committee. Bill wasn't on the committee. There's a reason why we were not given certain information. Okay, Mayor?
So the governing body is supposed to act as a board of directors, so everybody gets everything. So going forward, please give us everything, right? That's what the resident wants to hear you say, and you are unable to commit to doing that, I bet, right?
No, that's not true.
Will you commit to giving us all the information going forward?
Obviously, why wouldn't I be opposed to that, Mayor?
Because if history predicts the future.
Why? Because I'm corrupt? Because I'm making deals in the closed room, I don't know, like, you accuse me of all these things that are not true.
Well,
Do you have any facts? Do you have any facts that I'm corrupt? Do you have any facts that I'm making deals in the closed room, like behind me? No.
Well, actually,
you keep talking about it. But you know what? Like, I don't want to talk about the past.
Did you bring it up?
No, I don't want to talk about it because the resident asked that we not talk about what happened in the past and we move forward. Okay, so
You also paid a corrupt police chief $700,000.
That you're talking about the past.
So
again.
Mayor and Councilman O,
Yes, Mr. Sohn, go
please
ahead.
listen to us. You two guys are arguing and arguing and arguing all night long. You accuse, you resent everybody. You know, I gotta remind all of us, last November, most recent elections, Mr. Mayor were elected by a big gap over at Aversa, and 2 Republican councilmen were elected. What is that strong message to you? Open to mayor and work with the Republican councilmen together. But you guys looks like never be one team. We won, we residents won. Democrat and Republican becomes one team for the sake of town of Inglewood Cliffs. But looks like you know, even though we support the Mayor Kranjak as a new mayor, and you still biting him again and again and again, you know, we got getting sick and tired, really getting sick and tired. You don't read the voters' mind, okay? We want you guys become a one team and resolve the issues. And you know, this legal process, I know it's a long way to go. You know, please, all the residents, be patient. And, you know, 2-3 months goes easily, okay? But anyway, what I'm telling you is, even Gloria O has only a couple of months to work as a councilwoman, okay? Can you guarantee after you not become a councilman anymore, what you try to devote to the town? I mean, you know, you resemble what is it, Mr. Anyway, who is it? He's the zoning officer or whatever. Let's become, calm down and let's be honest. You know, one resident says the airplane is Mr. Kranjak's airplane. I don't think so. For majority council's plane, Mr. Mayor is a steward in that airplane. You know, please, you enjoy the majority, fine. But you know, nothing lasted forever, okay? And please, open up everything to the mayor, to the town, whatever, if you really like to. And I want to, you know, I still believe you are honest, okay? But the thing is, we have no time to argue or, blame each other, circle and circle and circle. Let's stop.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Whatever it
comment.
is, negotiation or do the both or, to all, directions, fine. Let's be friendly and positive. We got no time to waste to reject each other.
Thank you,
But
Mr.
one
Song.
very important thing is Mr. Kranjak has a majority support elected mayor, and I want all, city council respect him as your partner, okay? And, just, we saw you laughing at him so many times. It's an official, conference meetings.
I think the mayor muted you.
No, I think he muted himself by accident.
Anyway, thank you for everybody. And, we will keep discussing together and find out the right direction. This airplane cannot be accidentally landing, okay? It's gotta be safely landing. And there is a way which we keep, discussing and get the idea, okay? Let's be hope, it will be resolved the way we want, at least 50%. But please be friendly and help each other and become a one team. Thank you.
Mr. Song, thank you for your comments. I do want to work with the mayor, but when the mayor accuses me of being corrupt and making deals behind closed doors, I have to speak up because that's not true. That is not true. And he has made that statement in public multiple occasions, not just once. On multiple occasions, he's called me corrupt, and I'm making deals in closed doors, and I'm getting something from the developers. It's all nonsense. And when I hear that, I have to speak up.
Mr. Sohn, I want to thank you, and also the person before you, Mr. Sangani, I want to thank them also. Gloria, don't give me a reason to say those things and I won't, but you keep giving me reasons to say that. For example,
That's not true.
You paid a corrupt, racist police chief $700,000 to retire.
Here we go again, talking about the past.
That's what you did, right? So,
Oh, you got rid of him, so congratulations.
well, you paid him. You shouldn't have paid him.
Mayor, I think that the residents want us to move forward.
Yes,
I think
they
we're
do.
we're all in agreement that we need to continue down the appeal path. The only disagreement that I think we might have is that some members of the council believe.
What are you doing?
Can I please continue? Some members of the council, like myself, believe that we can look at all avenues and that we don't have to just go unilaterally down one path. So can we please move forward? I can't hear you. You muted yourself.
Miles Bay would like to speak.
Yes, Mr. Barry.
Hi, I just have a very quick question. I got so confused. So someone earlier had a question. Are we talking about settlement or not? That's a very straightforward question. And it looks like based on, or at that time, I believe no one had gave us a straight answer. But later on, you guys are talking about bilateral approaches. So basically, we're doing settlement as well as appeal.
Let me just say to Mr. Bay, please wait 1 second. We weren't aware of this. We have had that discussion tonight. We found out that the council was negotiating.
The council was not negotiating. That is not the truth, Mayor.
Well, here's the other problem. You should not advocate. You should not advocate. Right.
I'm going to caution you all against disclosing stuff from closed session.
That's fine. But Councilwoman Savari, you can't sit here and say you're not negotiating because you told Al Wunsch to go negotiate for you.
I personally did not make any decision.
Well, then how is Al Wunsch negotiating if you didn't empower him?
Mr. Mayor, this is clearly stuff that's been discussed in closed.
You can't advocate your role as a council person to a lawyer. You have to stay involved. You have to include me.
Mayor, Mayor,
Now,
you were disclosing closed session. You were very well aware when votes were taken in closed set of votes.
No.
And you were there, and you need to stop now because now you're violating.
You can't recreate history. I was not the
telling you
person
that
aware
my
of settlements.
opinion, Mayor, I'm telling you that my opinion, and I am telling the residents that my opinion is we continue down the path, but that doesn't mean that when we're continuing down the path of appeal and we have a very strong case, that we shouldn't also be looking at what other options are available if they are available. That's all this is. Nobody is in settlement negotiations, like you're putting it, that you don't know about. You are lying to the residents again.
No, you're actually wrong. And I'll tell you why for the 10th time tonight. I found out from Judge Farrington that you were in the negotiations.
Mario, that's a complete lie. You know exactly where you were at. You were in the closed session when we talked to Al Wunsch, and you know exactly what the deal was. So who are you kidding? You continue to lie to the residents, and that's the problem. That's the problem, Mario.
No, you're making
Excuse me.
False narrative.
Excuse me.
Who's speaking now?
This is Dongshan Chen. This is
No, wait, hold on.
Wait, who's calling the meeting?
We're one family. We're one family.
we are one family.
It doesn't matter if you're one family. One
Yeah, this
person
is-
speaks at a time.
Yeah, that's fine. This is Dongshan Chen. I live in
Mr. Bay was next, sir.
Mr.
And then Mr. Hugh will come after.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to just ask two
So can
questions.
you just for the record state your name and your address?
Sure. My name is Miles Bay, 14 Churchill Road. I would like to just ask two questions, and I would just like just one comment. First and foremost, can everyone, including Mr. Mayor, as well as everyone that's on the town council, confirm for everyone that's on this call that the appeal process is ongoing and every effort is being made to bring success out of that appeal process?
So I'll go first and everybody else can jump in after if you wish. There are certain appeals that we have to ask permission to bring now. And we've asked permission to bring those appeals, but the judge will not permit us to do that. And the reason is the judge's decisions are not final yet, and you could only do a full appeal when you have a final decision. Now, the problem, as I pointed out earlier tonight, is while she hasn't issued a final decision, she's trying to force us to do certain things which are based on the decisions that we want to appeal. So right there is unfair to the borough, and we're appealing that as well. So there's a couple different levels of appeal. And I wish that the judge would just be brave enough to let us appeal her and let a higher court decide if she was right or if she was wrong. But I think she realizes that she has a problem and she's not willing to do that. So she's trying to force us to do things that we shouldn't have to do yet until there's a final appeal. I don't know if anybody else wants to answer, but that was my answer, which is we are in the process of appealing.
Thank you.
Yes, we are in the process of moving full force ahead on appealing, and we have hit some bumps, and our attorneys are working and discussing with us how we move forward, but there is a strong force amongst all the council people that we are moving forward with appeal.
Thank you.
My comment is I feel like our legal team is overstaffed. That comment continues. I think having less chefs in the kitchen makes it easier, and we need we need a litigator, certainly. But I think beyond that, we just have too many attorneys right now that cost a lot of money in addition to not necessarily helping get the result we want.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. All I was looking for was just a simple, yes or no, and it seems like everyone is in agreement that the appeal process, everyone is trying the his or her best to make sure that the appeal process goes successfully. Thanks for that.
Mr.
And
Bay?
yeah,
Okay, so if I could just interject, as I had mentioned previously, we don't have to choose one track over another. We don't have to take the appeal route and not try to settle. I mean, it could be.
yeah. So that was going to be my second question. If you let me ask the question. Okay. The second question was, can I get an assurance from everyone with whoever, how many ever people that we have on this Zoom meeting right now, that there'll be full transparency between and among the town leadership, meaning the council, the mayor, and whoever the town's attorney, especially the litigator, that, as Mr. Drew Park noted before, one track might be too risky, although I think we have a very good case in terms of appeal, given how unreasonable, as even Councilwoman Savari has noted, how unreasonable the judge's preliminary ruling has been. Can we get assurance from everyone so that we don't have to repeat what we actually had to go through for the past many years, quite frankly, over different subjects, that you will work together on the plan B, as in that would be negotiating with the contractor or the builder, and there'd be full transparency so that the mayor would be aware of what the council is doing, and the council will be aware of what the mayor would like to do, and you will work together as a team.
Of course, you have my word on that.
All right, thank you. And then I'll just make a comment. I absolutely agree with Mr. Park that dwelling on the past is not going to be productive. But I did want to make one point. I think a lot of the residents, if not every single person that's on this phone, it's past 11 o'clock. We were at that upper school gym past midnight last summer when we first sort of had this meeting. I think are quite frankly extremely offended by the behavior of the council in general. The expressions that, the way how the council, I'm not going to name who, the way how people spoke, the way how people sort of, the expressions that they gave to the residents that were sort of speaking their mind, it was not appropriate. It was very offensive to everyone. And it was clearly the case again here, because people keep hounding on the past, pointing fingers, all this stuff, basically treating the residents as second-class citizens. The residents of Sango Cliffs are not stupid. They will vote as they want, and they will decide and choose as they want. And Mr. Mayor being the pilot, trying to pilot the plane, or exerting influence over the residents that attended the meeting at the upper school, so that we are where we are today, we're in a worse shape than we are. That's absolutely not true. That's absolutely not true. The residents are not stupid. This is what we want to do, and that is the reason why we are where we are. And the reason why the council did not pull back or aggressively pursue what they wanted to do was because the residents were against it, right? It's democracy, it's majority. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hu, Mayo Hu? Do you wish to speak?
Actually, I didn't raise my hand, but I like to take the moment to say something. In my opinion, appealing is the direction that, based on the majority of the town residents wanted to take. And at the same time, doing negotiation would be a waste of time and the town's resources. I'll just leave at that.
Can you repeat, tell us, I know you didn't say it, could you just tell us your address, please?
256 Alfred Street.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I appreciate it. Next person is Zing Zhu.
Yes, this is Jane. I live in 260 Marietta Street. I just want to make again, all we want as a resident is transparency, and I want council members working together, right? What I'm hearing, I'm very glad to hearing you all joined on this appeal route. So we all supportive to appeal. I also heard the option B or plan B. I like facts. I don't like emotion. Okay, what I heard one facts from the Councilor Wu, right? This is not good time to settle. This is 1 out of 100 years pandemic going on right now. So can we all agree, even we will consider plan B, this is not a good time. So let's just be focused and at least try our best effort to stick to that appeal route. And please, for transparency. Again, we are all residents in Engle Cliffs. We want to hear facts. We want to hear your rational risk assessment, and we want transparency. What I'm hearing, I hope this is also the consensus we can draw tonight. Even we will consider settlement down the road. This is not a good time. Let's focus on the appeal route. That's all I want to say.
Let me just see if there's anyone who hasn't spoken yet that has their hand raised.
No, everyone's spoken.
Okay, so everyone who wanted to speak has spoken. Mary O'Shea's got her hand up. Just unmute yourself, Mary.
Yes, thank you very much. Mary O'Shea, 12 Irving Avenue, Englewood Cliffs. Two things. When I have had an Oprah request in for a copy of the MOU, as did Lauren Eastwood, and I think the court record that came through that you were referring to was based on the response on my case with Lauren. And that was from Judge Farrington from June 3rd. Okay, wait, I gotta turn that off. In that response, she said, confidentiality concerns and any potential impact that the disclosure of the memorandum of understanding may have on ongoing settlement negotiations in the Normandy litigation no later than June 5th. So that indicated that there was ongoing negotiations now happening as of June 3rd, which was a surprise because really didn't think there was any negotiations going on and thought we were just doing an appeal. I do believe that we should be appealing very forcefully. I do believe that we should have the litigator handling the appeal. I think that Mr. Wunsch should not be involved in this case because from some of the papers that I read that he responded to, he goes out of his way to talk against the mayor in his papers that he files. And really, that is not in the best interest of the town because the mayor is part of our team and the lawyer should be working for all the people in the governing body and not attacking a member of the governing body by innuendo. Secondly, when I was on the council for 2.5 months at the end of 2018, was involved in the plan that was being presented for the Hudson Terrace property. And then I went back on the planning board in January. The planning board approved that plan, and then it went to the council. At that time, Mrs. Tabari took her seat and Jimmy Song took his seat. At that point, there was an abrupt turnaround in the council's approach to the Hudson Terrace plan. They voted for it on January 24th and approved it unanimously. But then meanwhile, there was negotiations going on. And my opinion of negotiations was once you're negotiating, at that point you are agreeing that you will consider putting housing on 800 Sylvan. Up until that point, we were not agreeing to put housing on 800 Sylvan, and we were going to solve our own fair share housing with 100% affordable housing on the Hudson Terrace property. That changed when Debbie Sabari and Jimmy Song took over and the Democrats had a majority. Second of all, when you talk about being on a committee or a subcommittee of the council, I think that the Democratic council people need to understand what the role is of a committee. A committee's role is to get facts, get information, bring it back to the whole council, and let the whole council make a decision on which direction to move. And at one of the council meetings last year, Ellen Park admitted that she was on the committee, Ellen Park, Ed Aversa, and Debbie Sabari, on the housing, affordable housing, that they did not sign the memorandum of understanding. They delegated the signatory of it to Albert Wunsch. And that was done without the full council knowledge. That is not the way the subcommittee operates. The subcommittee does not give direction to an attorney to act on the behalf of the whole council. The whole council is the only one who can delegate and give direction to the attorney to act. So that was part of the problem. And the other problem was with the loss of immunity. That happened when with Farrington, because she got angry at the council for doing an about face. She thought the memorandum of understanding was to be finalized. She was given that impression. And when they changed their mind after that July 10th meeting, she got angry and she pulled the immunity. That was their fault for leading it on. They wasted January to July working on a settlement that they didn't deal with, okay, instead of concentrating on the appeal. That's just my opinion. I don't like to see the fighting, and with Councilwoman O talking about corruption and backdoor deals and all that behind the doors. She says she protests too loudly, okay? And she says it more than anybody else. So she'd be better off not saying that, because, you know, you repeat somebody else's conversation, it becomes a fact. Thank you very much.
I disagree, Mary, and you were on the council one time, so you understand what we have to deal with. Just because people accuse you of being corrupt and making—
I know, but Gloria, you keep saying it.
It's not true, Mary.
I know, I'm not saying it's true.
You have facts? Does the mayor have any facts?
I'm not saying it's true.
Stop.
You protest too loudly. Forget.
Okay, I have a right to protest when somebody accuses me.
It's been a long night.
Mayor.
Yes.
Mayor, you need to make an apology in public that you are calling me corrupt without facts.
No, I had facts.
If
And
we
you keep
had
cutting
that
me off.
investigation that you all voted no on, you would get your name cleared.
Gloria, last week you voted to not have an investigation of you. That is a conflict of interest. So number one.
What is the reason for the investigation?
You have
you're on a fishing expedition. You want to find something. You're just so like eager to find something.
Gloria, if you had nothing to worry about, you would have voted yes.
I have nothing to worry about, Mary. Mary, I have nothing to worry about.
Bill of health, Gloria.
What?
Okay. All right. Let's move on. Let's move on, because we need to do the borough's business here, and it's been a long night.
Yeah, seriously, let's do some business and not
Gloria,
personal attacks here, Mayor.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Our general rules are that you get to speak once at the public session. I know this is a very, very important issue, and people have heard the dialogue, and I saw some people raise their hands again. So I have no issue asking you to go ahead. Drew Park, you have the floor. If you can, this is your second around, so go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Just one quick question, and I'm not sure if the town attorneys would need to opine on this. What happens if we win the appeal? Do we go back to square zero and we start this whole process all over again? Or is it done and finalized and we're good to go and the property goes back into commercial or whatnot?
Well, seeing as I'm the only attorney here, I don't handle the affordable housing case, Mr. Park, so keep in mind that I'm not as intricately involved in the case as the other attorneys are. But there are many different avenues of this appeal that have been brought up, including, I think there's at least 3 different decisions of the judge, each of which have different parts of them that on appeal could be won or lost. I don't really see a situation where it goes back to square zero. At the very least, there would be a retrial on the issue of how many units the borough is responsible for and how it's going to satisfy them. But, you know, there are definitely, I would probably say there's, you know, more than 10 or 20 decisions that she's made within those decisions that are questionable on appeal. The mayor and some of the council people have brought up some of them tonight during the Zoom call. And I think for the most part, the council agrees on those issues. So for the most part, I think it's been a pretty solid appeal process. It's just that, and I give the mayor credit, he's 100% right on the fact that this judge has frustrated our ability to get our appeal heard by the appellate division.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, before we go to the folks speaking for the second time, I think we're missing some of the people on the phone also on the channel.
Oh, so let's, yeah, I'm sorry. People on the phone, you have no ability to raise your hands or we have you muted. Let's unmute everybody. And if you're on the phone and you haven't spoken yet, it's going to be hard to know who's going first, but if somebody goes, everybody else wait till they're done, okay? So we're unmuting everyone on the phone. Can you do that? Just unmute everybody globally. Just go to participants, and then there's an unmute all.
I'm doing it one by one.
Why? Okay, all right, just bear with us 1 second. So if there's anyone on the phone who's been unmuted already and want to speak, just state your name and address, please.
Mr. Mayor, Carol McMorrow, 489 Summit Street.
Yes, go ahead, Ms. McMorrow.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to just say a couple of things, and for those of the residents that are on the phone that don't remember back to 2018, I was the liaison for affordable housing from 2016 through October of 2018. And I agree that we need to look forward and figure out well, obviously it's those on the council that are making the decisions at this point. But what is not being said and what the residents, I think it was a gentleman that lives at 54 Ash, you can't look backwards, but you need to have the facts to make sure that whatever mistakes you could be making, you're not going to be making the same mistakes again. And that's, as somebody watching from the outside now, I'm seeing a lot of that happen. I'm hearing risk assessment, which I totally agree with. But are you really looking at what the risk assessment is? And risk assessment doesn't only come from a monetary standpoint. It comes from, if you settle, what have you, if you're settling, yes, you're settling in your obligation, which you should have been doing all along, and you, quite frankly, should have accomplished it right now. And I'm a little confused on why that plan was not acted on and already started at this point, given all the time that's gone by. So, Mr. Mayor and Ms. Sabari, you continually keep saying that you want to look at all your options. and as somebody who was on the inside, I have the benefit of having been at that table that you're sitting at, more than you've sat at, because I served for 3 years and you're only there for a year and a half. And I went to mediations with these individuals, and there was only one option. And I think everybody should be reminded what that option was. Do we want residential housing on our corporate campus properties? Do we want to transform Englewood Cliffs as we know it today into a different, however you want to describe it? That has nothing to do with fulfilling our affordable housing obligation. I worked day and night to get us to that point. And quite frankly, to this day, I still don't understand, when I resigned in October of 2018, how we fell off track. Because we were on track with a plan that worked. And Ms. Sabari, you can yell from the highest mountain you want. That's an incorrect statement. You did not sit at those tables with myself, Mr. Perino, Mary Beth Lonergan, the special master, Josh Bowers, and everybody else, because we had a plan that they were going to accept. And something happened. I can't say what happened. I'm not going to make accusations. I'm not going to say anything other than I know what took place when I sat in that chair and we were all in the room together. So from October of 2018, something went wrong. And whatever it was, don't let it happen anymore. But you are letting it happen. Because in January of 2019, when you took office, we changed course. Even though Mr. Serenian, who I greatly respect, I worked with him for a year and a half. And he is a great lawyer, and nobody knows that stuff better than he does. He came before the planning board and he said it was a great plan in January of 2019. Ms. Stretta said it was a great plan. The planning board voted on it. It went back to the council, and Councilwoman O, I guess you forgot, and look, a lot of time has gone by, but you did vote on that and approve it. You said it was never approved.
I did.
That plan was approved. You said before it was never voted on. It was never approved.
No, what I said, Carol, was that.
Gloria, please follow Robert's rules, okay? There's no go back and forth. Okay, at the end, you asked to be recognized.
Okay. All right, Carol. Let me know when you're done.
It was approved, but something happened, and only those of the new council know what took place right after January 4th of 2019, and the course changed dramatically. I can tell you, as someone who had intimate knowledge of what took place, none of you brought me forward to testify and give facts of how hard we worked on behalf of this borough and gave that information to the judge. I, quite frankly, even though I may not agree with everything Judge Farrington ruled, I do not fault Judge Farrington, because she is only being given certain facts and she's not being given all the facts. And Councilwoman Sabari, Councilman Aversa, and whoever else was involved, you need to ask yourself why those facts weren't given and why Albert Wunsch is stopping the information of how hard we work to come out. He has zero experience on affordable housing, yet you paid him $300,000. I just pulled his bills up while I was listening for hours to all of you on a vendor history that I got under Oprah. $300,000 to him last year, and you paid Mr. Marinello $185,000. This year, through end of May, you've paid Al Wunsch $195,000 and Mr. Marinello $135,000. Again, Mr. Wunsch has zero affordable housing. Why, on the subject matter that is the most important that's facing this town, do you have a lawyer leading the charge? Zero experience. If you were going for heart surgery, would you go to a doc that's never operated on a heart before? Or would you go and find the best doctor to operate on you? I mean, come on. Everyone in this town is trusting you to make the right decisions And if you want to look at risk assessment, I'm sorry. I think there's a lot of risk, and it's being caused by our own council people not doing the right thing. So we have to look and make sure that we don't make those same mistakes of what we did before. And I just, you know, I'm listening to all of this, and I just don't understand why you refuse to put forth all of the hard work and efforts that were done for the town. That only helps us. So, you know, I'd like an answer to that. And I think the residents in this town deserve an answer to know, especially on the appeal level, because an appeal is only as good as the facts that are laid down below it. I didn't go to law school and I'm not a lawyer, but we have several lawyers up there. Tell me if I'm wrong. If you don't have that in your original cases and the facts aren't there, how are you going to use them in your appeal? Tell me.
Ms. McMorrow, what would you have added to the trial about the RDP? You were a planner. Do you have any knowledge about how the RDP is calculated?
Mr. Marinello, I'm not going to, please, don't deflect.
I'm not deflecting. I'm asking you a question. You have complained ad nauseum about not being called as a witness. I'm asking you what you would have added to the discussion.
You just insulted me for no reason.
How did I insult you? I said nothing insulting.
Ad nauseum, you just said. Okay. Instead of
that's
saying,
that's not. I don't understand what the phrase means. It means you keep bringing it up.
Stop interrupting me.
Doesn't mean you're.
Stop.
Marinero, that's not your job to interrupt.
I didn't interrupt her.
You
yes,
did.
You did.
No, I didn't.
That's not your job.
Mr. Farrow, I just sat up here and listened to her diatribe for the 100th time. It doesn't matter if I'm a council person.
Lawyer.
So if I can, Ms. McMorrow,
I only for about 7 minutes. I sat for 6 hours listening to all that, and he's going to insult.
I didn't insult you.
Okay.
I'd like to insult you, but I haven't done it because I'm a professional person. You don't know what
You interrupted her.
I've muted Mr. Marinello because he's out of line. Ms. McMorrow.
Thank you. Make sure that's part of the record.
You're out of line. Go ahead.
I'm going to wrap up, Mayor. All I'm saying is I'm agreeing with the residents saying to work together, but to work together, you have to work with the residents that have information that are going to help your case, and that's what you have to do. And you refuse. There are individuals on that council that are refusing to do it, and it's to the detriment of this town. Yeah. So when Ms. Sabari gets up there and says, we're looking at all the options are, do you want to turn your corporate properties into residential properties instead? That's the options they're looking at. That's it.
Okay.
If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But I don't see it as any other way. No other option you have, because 800 Sylvan wants to put residential housing on their property. It's a known fact. It's in all the papers. They want residential housing. It's a corporate zoned property. And if they do it, it's a slippery slope, because every other corporate property owner is going to want to put residential. And as Jeff Serenian taught me, okay, and I don't think he's wrong on the law, he said, you have a right to cure where you want to put it. And we should fulfill it. We should have already finished it. I hope you are working on taking care of all of that, because you should be doing that. And you should have been since January of 2019. But you have a right to put it where you want to.
I agree.
Thank you.
I also thank you, Ms. McMorrow, for your service and doing all that. And I felt badly also that all your good work was wasted by the prior council. And just to answer Mr. Marinello's question, you know, even though that trial was just about RDP, the judge took a great liberty and wrote about a lot of things that had nothing to do with the RDP, which if our trial team had called all the witnesses, such as Mrs. McMorrow, Mr. Perino, myself, she would not have been able to have the liberty to write what she wrote, okay? And at least we would have had a better record to appeal from. number one. Number two, Mr. Marinello, you just admitted that you don't work on affordable housing because we have 3 other attorneys. However, I see you on the emails, and I believe you invoice us for your time on affordable housing. So what I'm going to ask you to do is go back through all your bills and give us a credit for all the time that you've spent on affordable housing.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, but thank you for asking.
So then look, you just said you don't work on affordable
If
housing.
you ask me my opinion, if you...
Okay, we have people on the phone.
Mayor,
Mr.
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Kapassis.
Mayor.
Just a quick question. What would it take to get rid?
Your address, sorry.
I'm sorry, 251 Alfred Street?
Thank you.
Mitch Kapsaskis?
I'm sorry, not saying anything wrong. So.
No
It's been a
problem.
long night.
It sure has.
My vision is at the moment.
Just a few quick questions. One is, what, obviously the Democrats have the majority here. What does it take to get rid of someone with such a horrendous personality like Mr. Marinello and the way that he's treating residents, the snarkiness in his face as we're looking at him? It's upsetting hearing what he's getting paid to act this way in such a, I can't even describe the way that he's acting. It's the most unprofessional way for a lawyer that's getting paid to be here. He's the one that's getting paid to be here, and he's acting in such a way. It's so upsetting to us, I think all.
Yeah, so it takes a vote of council, and I've asked for that vote many times over the last year and a half, and they're sticking with him. But I do encourage everyone to watch a John Stossel video on Edgewater, which is where Mr. Marinello also acts as counsel. Anybody else? So if there's anyone on the phone, let's unmute everyone on the phone again, please. Okay, so everyone should be unmuted now. Actually, no, they're showing up as muted. Hold on. Okay, all participants are now unmuted. If there's anyone on the phone who wishes to be heard, just state your name and address. Okay, they're all unmuted. Thank you. Okay, let me see if there's anyone else who's got their hand up. Mr. Mate.
Yes, I know I'm coming the second time, but I wanted to answer Mr. Marinello. I guess he said first that he is not an attorney doing affordable housing, but yet he questions Ms. McMorrow as to what she was going to say. So then I guess I'm going to tell him what Ms. McMorrow would have done for us. Ms. McMorrow was specifically excluded because she had all the knowledge. She and Mr. Perino had all the knowledge as to what steps from 2016 till 2018 they took in order to satisfy our affordable housing obligation. If that fact had gone in, there is no way that 800 Sylvan could have got an award of builder's remedy lawsuit. Because what did you do as a borough needs to be proven before they sued you. So if you had already started taking steps before this, our council, run by Democratic members, they paid for the legal fees, but basically told the attorneys, I'm sure Mr. Serenian knows this basic law. It comes from Supreme Court in Toll Brothers versus Westminster in 2003, which it said, if the council had already taken steps to try to satisfy their obligations, builder's remedy lawsuit cannot be given to the builder. But excluding that specific information, that's why I had filed intervention papers, okay? Because I knew where this council was going and our attorneys were going. So I cited all that in my intervention papers. And every member or every town member who's here, they can go to the e-court docket, pull my intervention papers, and you will understand. And actually, it's a lot more than Mr. Marinello is stating. So I do not know, if he does not have that knowledge, why are we paying all these monies to him, number one. Number two, I just heard Ms. McMorrow say, we paid $495 or $490,000 to Albert Wunsch to do what? He's not even a litigator, nor is he at this thing. All he's doing is the gatekeeping work for the majority council guys so that none of the information can come to the Republicans or can come to the mayor, and to make sure that it gets done the way they want. So Mr. Park, when you were talking that you wanted the risk assessment, what is the risk assessment? The risk assessment is once these builders come in on 800 Sylvan, all the rest of the 9W is going to go the same way, and there will be more areas. Before you know, in 2025 or 2026, this is only good for 5 years, 6 years. Again, we'll be facing the same thing. The town will be. You are here for 30 years. I'm only here for about 2 years, less than 2 years. Okay, I still feel for the town people because they don't know that they have been compromised and put in a very bad situation with all the steps. So everybody talks about, oh, how we are working together. They are not working together. So while Mr. Granjak is saying that, oh, we filed an appeal, yeah, we are working. The appeal is only good as your basic proof, which is in the, what do you call this, court of Ms. Farrington. If the proof was not introduced there, what is the appeal court going to look at? The record is not there. These guys have made sure that our record is very poor. And based upon that, we would, lose, except some technical legal issues. But on the proof issue, we would lose because we haven't introduced the proof which is necessary in order to build the builder's remedy lawsuit. Okay? The fact is that we didn't build 469 units, which these guys said, oh, we had approved. I heard Mr. Perino say that it was pulled from the council agenda. So this goes back to 2016 or 17, where the whole scheme probably was laid out. I am in a basically real estate business. I have no affiliation either to the Democrats or the Republican. I work with both the sides nationally. Okay, so I have nothing to do with any of the parties here. I speak to both of them on both the sides. But, so when you said, what's the risk assessment? Our risk assessment is very great. It's very, how do I say? It's really bad, okay? So if the steps are not taken, but we keep on going back to the same lawyers because the 4 council members, Democratic, they control who gets paid and who gets hired. So mayor can say what he wants, but he doesn't have the power. So because it's the 4 council members, they're the only ones who have the power to basically, and these guys, their bills are paid by the council. Council is controlled by the Democrats. So they will do exactly what they're saying and not what the mayor is asking. So if you really ask these guys, how come the mayor had motions pending in the court with the judge refused, and still for a year and a half, he's not been able to get correspondence. He's not included in all the talks. How come he finds out and we find out now that basically there's a secret settlement negotiation according to the email which I received today, basically until the 10th or the 11th or the 12th, he's not even been told that there is secret negotiation. Then those settlement agreements or negotiations don't happen in 1 or 2 days. It goes on for about a month or 2 or 3. So while they're saying, yeah, we're taking an appeal for sure to lose, put up an enough show, make sure you cannot get sued on malpractice, they can't get you. Just do enough so that you can't, means the town or somebody cannot win. Put up the show, put up this thing, and then basically lose, and then say, oh, that was the best deal which you could have got. And now they'll come back and tell us, we need to do more and give them more. And that's the deal which we should give, okay? That's all I have to say. And they can all plead innocence. And if they really want, we can have actually a meeting over there. I can come up with all the proofs and we can show it and let them answer at that time. That's all I have to say. And Mr. Marinolo, please do not insult people. And at the 10th July, all of you guys were insulting to the people. And I saw basically that's what disdain and basically that we know more than you guys do. okay?
Mr. Mata?
That's the kind of embarrassment, and that was the kind of dislike which people, the council members showed to the people on 10th July of 2019. I'm sorry.
Thank you. And, you know, at my job as mayor, you know, I don't control the council, of course, but I do.
Mayor.
Let me just say this one thing and you can have the floor. I do want to work as hard as I can to bring the facts to you, which I feel we've done tonight and we did last July 10th. And also let you know, because you have a right to know where I stand on things, and you should demand from all the elected officials on all issues to tell you where they stand on things. Yes, Councilwoman Sabari.
Okay. Mr. Mehta, with all respect, you're making a lot of allegations against me personally.
There are no allegations. I'm sorry. You continue, then I will answer. Yes, go ahead.
I would like you to provide the public with this supposed proof that you have against me. Now, this has got to end. This is not okay. I shouldn't have to defend myself against all these lies that are being spread about me in town. I live in this town. I volunteer my time. I've done nothing but try to do the best for this town. Whether you agree with me or not is another thing. We're allowed to disagree and have
Yes, I agree.
That's what the council is about. We don't all have to agree. Okay, as far as the attorney's concerned and the way they handled themselves, that was their decision. I don't control the attorneys. The attorney who is the litigator, who was hired by the mayor, is the one who chose to put whoever he put on stand, which was our professionals who deal with RDP. So it has nothing to do with us. So I'm sorry if you feel that we have some control over these attorneys and how they proceed.
So, Ms. Sabari, please.
No,
Can I?
Please. No, hold on.
Mr. Kranjak, Mr. Kranjak, can I answer?
No, let me just say one thing. I'm sorry. I'm mute for. Look, yes, I hired those attorneys, but when you took over, you controlled them. And at the next meeting, I will circulate the letter I got from the attorney saying, we can't give you information.
Mayor, you can't keep muting me. Mayor.
You keep interrupting me, okay?
No,
And
because you're not letting me
honest with the
finish.
public.
I let Mr. Mehta finish, and now I need to be heard.
Aren't you finished?
No, you know I'm not finished.
Go ahead, finish.
You know I'm not finished.
But you know very well that you directed these attorneys and you're not brave enough to take responsibility for what you have done.
Direct these attorneys.
You did. You even advocated
as far as the way
negotiation
they,
for Al Wunsch.
again, here.
Al Wunsch is negotiating for this town. The guy with no affordable housing experience is in charge of your negotiation.
Mayor.
How ridiculous is that? Think
Mayor.
about it.
Again, okay? We're talking about the same attorney who worked with us on the original settlement plan, okay? So I'm not really sure where you're going with your comments, but again, we have a right to our opinion. Now, we all are privy to information that the public is not, and you know that. And you know what happens in closed session, and you know what happened and why the 77-unit plan was not enough. Because Fair Share Housing turned around and reneged on your deal. You thought you had a deal, they said no. That's it. And there was no plan B at the time. That was the plan, and it was a no. Our attorneys recommended that we settle. And I'm not going to continue to defend myself. Okay, I believe then that we should have settled, but we went ahead and did what the residents asked us to do. And you know what? It's turning out to be exactly what we were warned would happen is what happened. And I'm sorry again, Mr. Mehta, you're entitled to your opinion, but calling me a criminal of any sort is not acceptable.
Ms. Sabari, I will answer you. When you're done, please let me speak. And Mr. Kranjak, I don't need you to answer for me, please. Thank you. Ms. Sabari, first of all, I haven't said anything about criminal, and I know Ms. Gloria Oz keeps on talking about corruption. I haven't made any of that statement, and I didn't hear anybody say corruption, corrupt right now. And if there was something between Mr. Kranjak and Gloria, please do not bring it to this council, right? Means this meeting, because none of the publics, this is a public session right now, and I haven't heard any public make any of those kind of statements right now. That's number one.
You said you had proof.
Oh, I said I can show the proof. So let's, okay. So no, one second. So let's go one by one contention you made. So to give me, what's your first, and I'll answer all of them. So first of all, you guys made a statement that number one, that these guys wanted to go ahead with the commercial corporate this thing. 2016, Normandy, through their attorney, had made a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, all the files and records on affordable housing on this application. That was 2016.
And all of that. I
No,
don't.
so 1 second. So let's leave that out. You made some allegations against me right now.
No.
Let's just talk about that. So you were saying
Okay,
you
I'm
guys are
trying to
working with the
respect
mayor.
your
So
opinion.
it's equivalent to, and everybody can understand that. Let's say we send you our army, okay, for a battle against Russia, but we take away all the nuclear bombs, we take away everything from them, and just say, go and fight with your hands. Will they be able to do it? If they can win our fight, yes.
Good
So
analogy.
we do not allow our attorneys to proceed.
Okay.
And you know what? 1 second, please.
Let's
Please.
agree to disagree.
And if these attorneys were not doing what you are asking them to do, then why are you still sticking to them? You should have fired them, okay? And you're saying that you're not controlling. You guys control the payments, and you people have 4. Mayor has fired these attorneys twice, if I understand correctly, and you guys have still brought them back. Why? So you're saying, and the mayor brought those guys in 2015, 16. I have no affiliation with the mayor. Okay, he brought them in at that time, but that he was and I was there at that meeting.
With all respect,
I was there at the meeting in that July at the council, and those guys had said yes, the 77 unit plan. That was one of the first meetings which I had attended, that yes, it's a good plan or something like that. Okay, I have my notes.
Mr. Mehta, if I could just interject about the 77 unit plan. We keep talking about this. Let me make it very clear. At the time, in December of 2018, our professionals came to us and they said, the 77 unit plan seems viable. The council took votes. We, including myself, I voted for that plan.
Right.
But the fair share housing, they came back and they said that wasn't enough. That's the piece that the mayor, he doesn't tell you about that. It was never approved by the fair share housing. It was never approved.
But
so it was not a viable plan.
okay, so let me explain to the people what I know and what I understand. In October 2006, I forget when, 2018 or whatever, the judge approved the motion or whatever application to release 1.8 million or whatever it was to buy the land to put up 77 units. If the judge didn't think that it was a good plan or it could have satisfied over this thing, usually the courts do not grant that, okay? The courts do not grant you even temporary injunctions if they don't think that you have a likelihood of success. So in my opinion, with all my experience in the legal field, I'm not a lawyer, but whatever actual practical experience, the judge thought that it was something she could approve or it was good for the borough, and that's the only reason. It's a public trust money. It's not even from a private party. It's from the town. There's a higher, what do you call, fiduciary duty to that. So when you tell me, or everybody tells me that, oh, it was not approved, I find it very hard to believe.
Mr. Mehta, the judge did approve for the town to use the COLA money to purchase the property.
Correct.
At the end of the day, the bottom line is that the plan was not approved by the fair share housing. So, you know,
but
we could talk about this until
the cows come home, but we didn't build on it. We didn't build on it, and that is the reason why the judge is using.
That's not the reason. That's not the reason. We didn't even get to that point. The council approved it, but the fair share housing, they, you know, the mayor keeps saying that we had a deal. Maybe they had a, you know, deal on a handshake, but it was never final. It was never final.
You abandoned that.
And that everybody has to understand that point.
Is there anyone else on the Zoom phone line who wishes to be heard? I've unmuted everybody, so if anyone is remaining, yes, I see a hand actually. Go ahead.
This is a fan from Fan Huang, 255 Alfred Avenue. So I just want to have 2 points. One is about when we are having the appeal, at the same time we are doing negotiation. So would it jeopardize our chance to win the case? If you want to be a strong fighter, you don't give a back door.
Yeah, you don't put blood in the water. I believe it would jeopardize the appeal, but
I disagree, Mayor.
if it's kept confidential, it may not be, but
Obviously, it's not being kept confidential.
well, because the judge blew it up herself, right?
No, that was actually a ruling in an Oprah case.
No, but she was referring, it's very cute, Mr. Barry, but she was referring to this case.
I'm not being cute.
Yeah, you are, because you know.
May
Okay,
I
so-
continue?
I think just to finish the answer, often you do negotiate while you're also litigating, and if you do it right, it shouldn't impact. I just don't know what our lawyers are doing.
Good to know. Okay, my second point is about forward-looking. So this is the first case for affordable housing and high-density condo or community in our town. Once we have the first case, other developer will follow. As someone mentioned before, like all the 9W can be open in next few years. Right? So if you delay 1 year, it means the overall process can be, we pay a little bit cost, I understand.
Right.
So just once the gate is open, it's very hard to close. I don't know when is the end.
I agree with you, and we put it off a year from last July, and I intend to keep doing that. Were you finished, Ms. Yuan?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So is there anyone else that wishes to be heard? I have a rule that you have to end meetings in the same day you started them, but I just broke that rule, I think, at 12:03, and I broke it up July 10th also.
Can I make a motion to close?
Let me just make sure there's no one else. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard? I don't see anyone. Okay, yeah, please go ahead and make a motion.
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we are out of public portion. We will adjourn next, but I just want to mention, because we still have 54 people on the line right now. Last week, the council did unanimously approve a proclamation expressing gratitude to our Englewood Cliffs Police, the county police, which is really the sheriff's department, and the state police. Okay, so you should know, on a good note, as you leave this meeting tonight, that we did something together unanimously, and they've been very appreciative. So, can I have a motion to adjourn? No, that was to get out of closed session. That was to get out of closed session. Public, right, yeah. So can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Who seconded?
Debbie. Okay, thank you, everyone in the public, for hanging in there with us for many hours. We appreciate your time and thoughts and insights and analysis. We will try to keep you up to date as much as we can, and I ask the council to keep me up to date. Thank you. Be well, stay safe.